Coming to council tonight. I'd like to call to order this meeting on April 14th, 2026. Mayor Pro Tem Goss, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Inspiration?
I'd be delighted. Please rise if you're able. Face the flag. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, what to inspire you with? There's certainly plenty of bad news around, so I figure, oops. There's a lot of bad news out there, of course, always is, but there's good news too, and we're supposed to start our meetings on a high note, so I like to go search out little nuggets of positivity, and I'll give you my sources for tonight. Humanprogress.org for the first one. The second one, sunnyskies.com, and the third one is goodnewsnetwork.com. So yes, these places actually exist. So I'm going to start with some really good news. Traffic deaths are down. The U.S. Department of Transportation's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration announced that traffic deaths fell to record lows in 2025. With an estimated 36,640 traffic fatalities in 2025, that was a 6.7% decrease from 2024. The nation saw its second lowest traffic fatality rate in recorded history at 1.1 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And that drop happened even as total vehicle miles traveled increased by 0.9% in 2025. So, good way to start the evening. Got this from sunnyskies.com. A teacher set the Guinness Book World Record after 61 years at the same school. According to Westmoreland High School in Tennessee has announced that Ms. Glenda Aiken has been awarded a Guinness World Record for the longest career as a female teacher at the same school, 61 years and 43 days of service. Ms. Aiken spent more than 6 decades shaping young minds at Westmoreland High School, first as a teacher and later as the school's librarian. Generations of students passed through her classroom, many of whom credit her steady presence and passion for learning as a lasting influence in their lives. I thought that was kind of inspiring. And finally, for my environmental friends, 158 giant endangered tortoises were recently released on a Galapagos island where they'd been extinct for 180 years. According to the Good News Network, a giant tortoise population is once again walking the landscapes of Floriana Island, launching the largest restoration effort undertaken on the Galapagos Islands. 158 juvenile giant tortoises of Floriana lineage were released recently into their ancestral habitat, marking a historic milestone for the archipelago. The project represents one of the greatest challenges undertaken by the Galapagos National Park. So there's 3 nuggets of positivity to start our meeting with.
Thank you
Madam Mayor.
so much, Mayor Pro Tem. City Clerk, can I please have the roll call for our city council members?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Mayor Christine Lowe,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Jean Goss,
Here.
Councilmember Edward Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly Krebs,
Here.
and Councilmember Robert Parkhurst.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum?
Thank you so much. Can I please get reports from City Attorney regarding our closed session today?
Mayor, the City Council met in closed session to discuss 3 items. The first was public employee discipline, dismissal, and release. The City Council voted unanimously to dismiss an employee. Second, public employee discipline, dismissal, release. On that second item, the council took no reportable action. And the third was conference with labor negotiator. The labor negotiator was the city manager. The unrepresented employee was the city attorney. And on that action, no reportable action was taken.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk Aguilar, do we have anything for supplemental information regarding the agenda items?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Clerk's office has no updates or revisions to this evening's agenda.
Thank you so much. Okay, reports from Mayor and City Council. Who would like to start today?
I have a very short one.
Please.
during the interim from our last meeting, I attended the Wisteria Festival, which, as always, was very well done. I actually got up to the vine this time for the first time in a long time. It may have been a little bit post-bloom, but it was still sufficiently beautiful, and as always, went off without a hitch. Was very pleased with the ease of the shuttle and all of that, and just a great day all the way around. And it seemed like businesses were happy in terms of the increased foot traffic, and the booths were great, and it seemed bustling, and the weather was beautiful. So congrats to the chamber, and thanks to all the volunteers for making such a great day.
Thank you. Please.
There we go, got it on. So I also went to the Wisteria Festival, and will echo what Councilmember Krebs said. One thing happened while I was there. I was stopped by two businesses who, without any prompting, stated they were interested in bike parking along Sierra Madre Boulevard. They had heard the comments from our last council meeting and said they were interested in looking at increasing bike parking. And then also on March 28th, I was lucky enough to be at an Eagle Court of Honor and honoring a new Eagle Scout. So that was delightful. And then on April 2nd, the Clean Power Alliance had their board meeting. They elected a new board chair. They approved a new approach to the Power Ready program, which we're going to hear about tonight. They directed staff to prepare and present two-year budgets, and they looked at rates for fiscal years 26 and 27. On April 4th, I attended the Easter egg hunt, and it was just an incredible success, so much excitement. The golden eggs stuck around for quite a long time, so the fire department did a good job of hiding those. And with that, I turn it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, so on April 2nd, Madam Mayor, I attended the Senior Community Commission. It was pretty much business as usual. I'm not going to spoil anything, but they did nominate the Older American of the Year. Since there really wasn't anybody here, I'll let it be a surprise to everybody. On that same day, later in the afternoon, I attended the Planning Commission meeting. And really the order of the day was listening to, I guess it's basically a hearing on a public nuisance issue. The commissioners did express some little bit of grievance that they have to hear these grievances, pun intended, because you know they didn't think that they're signed up for really being an adjudicator on some issues. But thankfully, through our code enforcement and encouragement and communication, the property had complied with everything that was at issue, and the case was dismissed. So it was a really quick planning commission meeting, and so it turned out to be a good process because everything got done that needed to get done. I don't have the date, my apologies, but I think it was a week and a half ago. This was kind of within the scope of city council. So a high school teammate of mine was inducted to the Arcadia High School Hall of Fame. His name is John Speraw. He was my teammate in high school, and he went on to win two national championships with UCLA. It's volleyball. He went on to coach at UCI, which was an obscure volleyball program, and he won 3 national championships there as a head coach. He went to UCLA, took over Al Skate's job, and won a couple national championships there. Was the Olympic coach, won I think 1 or 2 golds as an assistant coach, and as head coach, I think 2 bronzes. So he did a lot within that, and he represented Arcadia well. And I was honored by the Arcadia Mayor and City Council to present a certificate as a City of Sierra Madre council member, a certificate from the City of Arcadia to him at the induction. So it was, I guess, within my official capacity. And then finally, yes, I did enjoy the Wisteria Festival. It's always one of the best days of Sierra Madre. Great weather. I thought it was going to be hotter. It was still hot, but weather wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and it was well attended. And I always joke it's my wife's favorite day of the year because when she was a kid, it was like the only day you could like walk through the streets of Sierra Madre in the middle of the street, and that was always fun. I guess the Mount Wilson Trail Race as well, but kudos to everybody that put on a great festival. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem?
And I too attended the Wisteria Festival, but I got to be honored to fill in for our mayor as a judge in the Wisteria Car Show, which was an amazing car show, I might add. It was a very tough choice, but I chose a very sweet green 1969 Mustang Mach 1 for the Mayor's Award, and the gentleman was very happy to win it. It was a great festival. Everything that's been set up here, I echo. It's really, really well done. On the 30th, I attended the Community Services Commission. They approved special events permits for the Sierra Madre Community Nursery School Carnival and the Friends of the Library Art Fair. And then just past Saturday night, my Mayor Lowe and myself were at the Sierra Madre Playhouse for a very special event. LA Philharmonic concertmaster violinist Martin Chalafor and guitarist Mac Grigget provided a history of the tango with special music arranged for the violin and guitar. It was a very inspired performance. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was a packed house. And furthermore, our old colleague on the council, Assemblyman John Harabinian, was the guest of honor. So it was great to see John there. And that's my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. So on March 25th, I attended the LA County Sanitation. We're District 15, nothing to report there. On March 31st, I had a great luncheon with one of our great families that have grown up in Sierra Madre, the Heflins. I had a lunch with Maggie Heflin to represent the Pasadena Community Foundation, and we met with the Sierra Madre Community Foundation and the Pasadena Community Foundation to see if there's some collaborative events we can do, especially when it comes to Pasadena Unified, since we share resources there. And then on April 2nd, thank you so much for attending the Planning Commission for me. I had to go to the opening game of Ontario's Tower Buzzers. I'm so sorry we missed you. Some people were, I was hoping to see some other people there, but I got to meet a lodge of Dodgers, which was exciting. On April 11th, thanks to the president of the Civic Club, our very own Susan Clifton, I got to attend the Civic Club luncheon. It was really fantastic. It was a great day. And then that evening, I attended the Playhouse for the History of the Tango with Mayor Pro Tem Goss and Assemblyman Harabinian and his wife Youngji. So it was a great night. That's it. All right. Other things going on coming up. So there's an upcoming senior excursion to the Metro Union on May 12th from 10:30 to 4 o'clock. They'll stop at Philippe's for lunch, which you can purchase separately. What's our age limit again for senior services? They need some escorts from council. Tickets are $20. There are flyers on the table in the back. You can still register for the Mount Wilson Trail Race. It's going to be the full trail race, everybody, which takes place on May 23rd at 7:30 a.m. Registration is on a first-come, first-served basis, and there's flyers in the back for that as well. I will be down there rooting you on. The lineup for this year's summer concerts in the park has been completed, and the flyers are in the back for that as well. Grab one to see your favorite artist performs, and the first performance is June 6th, featuring the Pasadena Orchestra. All right. All right, we have presentations now. Our first presentation is the proclamation and recognition of National Donate Life Month to Susan Lesniak with One Legacy. Hello again.
Hi.
So nice to see you again.
So glad to be here again.
Nice to see you.
Are we going this way or that?
I guess we'll go, we don't have the camera on either way, so. All right, so this is in recognition of National Donate Life Month, whereas organ, eye, tissue, marrow, and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. More than 103,000 individuals nationwide and more than 23,000 in California are currently in the national organ transplant waiting list. Whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. Organ donors saved more than 46,000 lives last year, and the most than ever. Any person can register to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor regardless of age or medical condition. Whereas California residents can sign up to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor when applying for and renewing their driver's license or ID cards with the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Visit donatelifecalifornia.org. Now, therefore, may it be resolved that in recognition of National Donate Life Month, the month of April 2026 is hereby proclaimed DMV Donate Life Month in the city of Sierra Madre. And in doing so, we encourage all Californians to check yes online when applying for receiving their driver's license or ID card in the DMV. For those of you guys who aren't aware, our very own firefighter, oh my gosh, I'm mind blanking.
Mark
right
Toussaint.
now. Mark Toussaint is an organ recipient because of One Legacy. So we are thankful that he's here with us and that he's able to serve. And thanks to you and your organization, we would like to give you this recognition and to dedicate our month. And I'm sure you would like to say something.
I want to thank everybody. I've been back here, 4 years now? So I'm very grateful for the support from the town and for, I don't know which way to point
I
here.
know.
It's kind of rude.
Camera's not showing,
All right.
so it's-
Okay. So I wanted to add a few things to this that people probably aren't aware about. As far as registering to donate, of course, the DMV is a primary place that everybody goes, and I guess your closest one is Pasadena, so I checked to see how much they usually get as walk-ins, and averages in 2025 is 22% of the people that walk in to do business there are registering. And we're happy with that. We'd, of course, love to see more, but everybody goes to DMV for different reasons. It's not just a new license. The other place that you could register is when you file your California income tax return. I just realized that's a new thing, that at the end of it, it gives you an option. Do you want to be a registered organ donor? And if you mark it yes, then they will send that information into Sacramento and put you on the registry. A third place is through going to the hospital, and if you're at a hospital that uses Epic and MyChart, one of the major ones around here do, I know UCLA has it, they give you an opportunity to upload your advance directives, and through that process, that system that has been implemented just last year gained another 130,000 people across the country, whoever uses it, to input. So there's different ways to do it and to register. And I do urge everybody to do that, but also tell your family and friends so that you don't have to have an issue later at a time of crisis. I'm very fortunate because I received a heart transplant. Out of the numbers you read, 88% of the people are waiting for kidneys in California. The next largest group is liver. Then it's a combination of kidney and pancreas. And then I'm down to the hearts. You know, I thought I am special. I'm very special. It's a very unique situation. And after that is lungs and intestines and so forth. But what is really important is those numbers for the kidneys and livers. I think they're bumped up because living donors. And you can be a living donor for a kidney, even if it doesn't match your particular person, your loved one that you wanted to get tested for. You can get into a kidney chain, and they're doing that for livers now. They had a really successful system set up in Texas. So these are all new things that are coming out. And I know you guys have wonderful community events, and I would love to invite you to ours, which is on April 25th. So that is our annual run walk in Azusa Pacific, and I know Laura's going to be there. And I encourage anybody to come because that's where all the donor families get to meet recipients and, you know, honor their loved ones that have passed, and everybody's just has a good love fest, to tell you the truth. So thank you so much for this, and this will be posted there at the Run Walk. And have a good evening, and I'll see you soon.
So great to
Okay.
see you. second presentation is a proclamation in recognition of National Library Week to our own Layla Regan. Our Director of Library Services and Community Services, and our very special friend, Layla. This National Library Week, April 19th to 25th. Whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can find joy through exploration and discovery. Whereas libraries serve as vibrant community hubs connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resources while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and cultural enrichment. Libraries provide free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals, regardless of background, have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. Libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. Libraries protect the right to read, think, and explore without censorship, standing as champions of intellectual freedom and free expression. Dedicated libraries and library workers provide welcoming spaces that inspire discovery and collaboration and creativity for all. Libraries, librarians, and library workers across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme, Find Your Joy. So thank you so much for all you do and your amazing staff. You are more than just a librarian. You are absolutely like one of the hearts of Sierra Madre. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I will keep it brief. I am Layla Regan, soon to be Layla Arciero, just so everyone knows my name is changing. But I am Layla Regan, your friendly neighborhood library and community services director. And even though the library is currently closed, I guarantee you, if you come on Saturday, June 6th, there will be much to celebrate. We are doing an all-day celebration that day. So 10 a.m. is going to be speeches, 11 a.m. is the ribbon cutting, and then from 11 to 1 is kind of a block party. We will be in the back, in the new back entrance of the library, celebrating, and we will also have our summer reading kickoff in our new Mary Tumulty Community Room at noon. And after that, we are planning to have more celebrations, so don't go anywhere. We will also have the Sierra Madre Academy, Music Academy, performing, and then we will have a puzzle competition. So if anyone is really into puzzles, which I think a lot of us are, we'll have children's, teens, and then adult group. So start puzzling and get ready. But it'll be an all-day event. It'll be extremely fun. And I want to say a special thank you to the City of Sierra Madre and our Honorable Council for doing the work that needed to get done to make sure this building is being successful. And especially to, in our audience here, we have one of our trustees. So we have our Library Board of Trustees here and our Friends of the Library President. There is even someone from Reading is Fundamental. So, so we have a wonderful support system in this community, and we're looking forward to continuing to serve you. And again, show up on June 6th, which is a Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. So we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have a presentation from the Clean Power Alliance on the Power Ready project.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Honorable Council. Brian Dickinson, Public Works Director.
No, he needs the presentation.
There we go. I'm just going to give a brief update on the Clean Power Alliance Power Ready project and the status. So we'll start off. I've got a little bit of a And we tested it out earlier. There we go. So City Council approved an MOU with Clean Power Alliance on March 8th, 2022, and the fully executed document was December 27th, 2022. CPA will contract with a third-party developer who installs and owns the equipment. Under normal operations, the system is designed for CPA's demand-side management requirements to supply the grid when needed. So basically, in the summer peak months, when CalISO calls for power, they'll be providing power from the battery storage to this. When there's a power outage, the system will be able to provide a minimum of 4 hours of backup power for certain critical loads here at the Public Safety Building and at City Hall, minimum of 4 hours. And then the city will be billed monthly under the Power Ready rate structure, where annual charges will be equal to or less than that if the city were not participating in the Power Ready program. So we'll be either made whole or we'll be charged a little less based on, and they true it up on a monthly basis, and then at the end of the year, they true it completely up. That's that one. So current project status. The city received the permit application for the project on 2/23/26, and this is actually from the developer, not Clean Power Alliance. Plans were reviewed and completed on March 10th and 11th by Fire and Building. Revisions were required and sent back on March 13th. No updates have been resubmitted to date. The roof tile replacement permit application was received on March 10th, and staff emailed correction revisions on March 25th. Because some of what they were going to, what they proposed for the tiles wasn't acceptable. And then to date, no permit application has been received for the flat roof replacement, because they're going to be doing the, and I'll have to delve into that a little more because they didn't go into detail. There was originally a evaluation done strictly on the public safety building, but in the agreement, it spells out that states that they're going to do 25,000 square feet of roof replacement. There's no, Councilmember Garst, that when I saw that, there's probably not even 25,000 square feet of footprint between the two buildings.
My
So-
roof needs to be redone.
We'll, when the time comes for that, I'll make sure, we'll see if they're planning on doing this. If not, I'm gonna say, hey, your agreement states 25,000 square feet. You need to comply with that. And then last little brief update is a little side aspect of this. For the Energized Communities project, we'll be submitting for funding for EV chargers for our public fleet that will be coming down the pipeline as part of the proposed and future fleet from Enterprise. Because we'll be having a total of 7 EV and or hybrid vehicles. And then we'll be exploring where we'll have some at the yard, and then we'll be exploring other opportunities, most likely somewhere here in the City Hall parking lot for vehicles that will be stored here. And then I'll entertain any questions.
Do you have any questions?
So what's the cost for us for these two programs?
There is no cost to us. The actual cost is we're getting the energy available to us for the Power Ready, which is a solar battery, and then we get funding for the EV projects.
Do you know about how much funding we get for the Energized Community Project?
Off the top of my head, I think it's, how much, James? I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll bring James up, who's very intimate with this.
Thank you, Councilmember Parkhurst. We, as you probably know, we did make a shift. At first, we were going to energize communities for public EV charging. As soon as our fleet upgrades started to develop, we understood that we're going to need our own internal way to charge these cars. So we haven't gotten to that level of how much money that we would expect, but it's something I'm going back and forth with Clean Power Alliance staff right now.
Okay, great.
I think we're allowed up to $250,000.
That's
for
correct,
that.
yeah.
So that's significant, between the solar is one investment, no cost to us, and then the charging stations up to $250,000 we get just as being a member of Clean Power Alliance.
That's correct, yeah, you're correct.
Any more questions? Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Director Dickinson. Okay, Public comment for items not on the agenda. Any person wishing to speak before City Council is asked to complete a speaker card and provide it to the city clerk. Speakers are generally limited to 3 minutes, which we will uphold to, and time may not be delegated. Any changes to the allotted time will be announced. We're going to stick to the 3 minutes. Under the Brown Act, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. Let's see. Persons with a disability who require disability-related modification or accommodation in order to participate in the meeting, including auxiliary aids or services, may request such modifications or accommodations from the city clerk. All right. Do we have any public comment not on the agenda?
Madam Mayor, the city clerk's office received 2 emails today for items not on the agenda. Both emails were forwarded to the city council for consideration. One was from Bob Vogel, and the second was from Deb Sheridan. There are 5 speaker cards submitted this evening for items not on the agenda. The first of the 5 is from Diane Sands.
All right. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Before we begin, I was noticing, I think that the video feed and the audio feed are not in sync. I was watching the mayor speak, and her mouth was moving in different words. We're coming out. So just, I don't know if we want to,
It's a gift I have.
just in case we want to fix that.
We also have a new timer system. The timer will be right here in front of you there.
I wondered where it was. I wondered. All right.
And our city clerk will be able to manage the timer.
I can
May she
start.
start?
Short and sweet. I'm here on behalf of the Historical Society, and I wanted to let everyone know that we will have a program coming up at the Hard Park House on April 22nd at 6 p.m. It is about the history of the Mount Wilson Trail Race. We will have Jeff Lapidus, who designed our centennial book, talking about the ancient history up until about 1990s, when Pete Siberol will take over as presenter and talk about the modern trail race. And then Bob Spears will talk about the condition currently of the trail as we head into the trail race at the end of May. So I encourage everyone to come. We expect a sold-out house. It's free. I shouldn't say sold out. Standing room only. And come early if you want a seat, or if you don't mind standing. We will have refreshments. And again, it is free. So please come and join us. April 22nd, 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hard Park House.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Cheryl Fukuzaki.
Good evening, Cheryl.
Hi, good evening, council. So in February, my husband contacted the city regarding our concerns about the contaminated soil at the Meadows project. After many residents reached out, Joshua Wolf asked my husband to gather and submit a list of community questions. On March 2nd, City Manager Michael Bruckner responded with a memo. However, the majority of the 29 questions submitted by residents were not addressed. I raised several of those unanswered questions at the last council meeting, and to date, we still have not received meaningful responses. Mr. Bruckner also stated that bi-weekly progress updates would be provided. Since that memo, no such updates have been shared. One of our primary concerns is air quality. The city did not initially require Toll Brothers to conduct continuous air monitoring, such as real-time sampling at property lines. Why was this not required to protect the residents? It was only after repeated pressure from the community that air monitoring began. Air monitoring has now been ongoing for weeks, yet residents have received no results. If the data shows that conditions are safe, why has it not been shared? The city directs residents to the transparency portal on the city website, but transparency requires access to information. Soil testing results were posted, but air monitoring results are not being made available. Residents have also had concerning interactions on site at the Meadows. A representative from Hillman Consulting acknowledged to a resident that dioxins are present in the soil, but stated there was nothing to worry about.
So sorry.
Dioxins are known to be hazardous even at low levels. In another instance, an air monitoring device that the representative was wearing, reportedly it alarmed. The resident asked why the device was beeping. The representative dismissed the alarm without explanation, said it was nothing, and walked away. These moments raise serious questions and deserve clear answers. City Council members, one of your core responsibilities is to represent and protect your residents. I am here again tonight because families are afraid. Some residents have already left their homes. No one should have to question whether the air they are breathing is safe. I am formally requesting Mr. Bruckner to provide the residents a clear explanation as to why the air monitoring data has not been shared with the public, why the promised bi-weekly updates have not been provided as he stated they would. I would also like to reference a letter that the mayor sent to my husband, which stated, and I quote, "I'd also like to see increased transparency, and I hope that the weekly updates from the development project are going to be done well. Respectfully, we have received no such updates." And Madam Mayor, I do come to you for help on this request. This is a serious issue, and residents shouldn't have to be living in fear. My husband and I are asking for this information not only to be provided directly, but also posted publicly on the city's website so all residents can access it. I was recently approached by a community member who had seen my remarks in the last council meeting. He said, "I am so sorry for what you're going through. I hope you get answers. You deserve answers." And he's right, we do.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Maria Elena Navarro.
You know, made my glasses, thanks. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. I came with visuals, so I'm here about this crosswalk. It is on Park Avenue and Sierra Boulevard, just down the street. And I'm here because I was almost hit about a week and a half ago. I walk about 5 nights a week. This particular crosswalk is like the ladder type of crosswalk, and I'm guessing because of the flow of traffic going in and out of the city, this is why there's no stop sign. So on an average night, I have to wait for 7 to 12 cars, yes, I count, to just stop for me. I am allowed legally to cross, and they're not stopping. So whatever we have there, it's just not working. And then we have this signage right here. It's on the north and south side. This is completely obstructed on the north side by a tree. So that needs to get cut because their branches are completely obstructing it. So drivers coming west, they can't even see this. And I know because I've tested this out before I got here tonight. As I mentioned, it's a ladder crosswalk, and across from here, from the police station and at Kensington, there are a couple of things that I'd like to recommend for this crosswalk. The first is installing a pedestrian activated flashing signal, which we have here over at Kensington, and a similar warning system. Adding a vehicle center of the road sign. There's also one over here at Kensington, like right in the middle of the street, that allows drivers to see better, or any type of signage that's a little bit brighter or more apparent. I think that when we are going to and from work, especially in the evening, we're just so used to driving right through, we are not stopping. I had crossed just the southbound side, and I felt the wind of the car go behind me. I jumped fast enough, but I'm an adult. So when our beautiful library opens and the students from Alverno who are at Village Pizza, every single Friday, no offense to parents, but I've never seen a parent. And this is weeks, every Friday. Check it out. Friday afternoons, early dismissal Alverno, you've got 20 kids hanging out in Kirsten Court, paying on GPay for all their stuff up there. So let's just say they go to the library and decide to do research like I did with Miss Lori, and I use the card catalog. Let's just say they do research on a Friday afternoon. Guess where they have to cross? So let's make sure no one gets hit, especially a child. Thrilled about the library opening, but they deserve a better crosswalk. Pedestrians do, and it's just not safe anymore in terms of the flow of traffic and the library going in. Thanks so much for your time. Special shout out, leaders matter, and the people that we train and represent us matter. That night I walked into the police station. I apologize if I get the name wrong, but it's Officer Sanchez and then Eric from the city. Gracious, kind, empathetic, and they heard me out. So that represents your leadership and the leadership of the city. So if you're gonna give them a shout out this month, please do on behalf of me because they were great that night. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Alicia Yao.
Hello, Mrs. Yao.
Hi, how are you? Members of the council, my husband is stuck at work and asked me to make these comments for him. On de novo review, my husband appealed the Meadows at Bailey Canyon project at the de novo hearing on February 24th. He expected a genuine fresh review from the beginning as the rules require. Instead, it felt like the Planning Commission's decision was treated as mostly correct, especially in comments from Mayor Lowe and Councilmember Garcia on fire risk and code issues. Rather than starting over with an open mind, the hearing lacked true de novo independent reconsideration of the evidence and the residents' concerns. This apparent failure to conduct a real de novo review left my husband and other neighbors feeling the process was neither fair nor impartial. He respectfully asked council to acknowledge this and ensure all future appeals receive the full, unbiased review the law demands. On hydrology, my husband submitted a detailed Public Records Act request for specific hydrology and drainage information on the project, including the engineers' names and PE license numbers, the software and version used, what happens in storms exceeding a 50-year event, and all indemnification and insurance details. The city's response was inadequate. Staff simply provided hundreds of pages of the EIR that did not answer any of his questions. It appears no one even checked whether the documents addressed the request. This raises serious doubts about how the project was approved. My husband respectfully asked the council to direct staff to immediately provide the actual technical hydrology report, the stamped engineering plans, and all liability and insurance records he properly requested under the California Public Records Act. On Measure M, at the January 24th, 2023 meeting, New Urban West pushed for the May 9th special election and offered to offset the election costs, which everyone understood to mean that they would cover it fully. Instead, the city accepted only a partial payment and quietly placed the cost-sharing agreement on the consent calendar at the May 23rd meeting, where it passed without discussion. Sierra Madre taxpayers were left with a $259,823 shortfall. This is not how important financial decisions should be handled. My husband urges the council to address the shortfall, restore transparency, and recover the $259,823 from New Urban West Toll Brothers. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Stephen Hydorf.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. My name is Steve Heiderf, and I'm Chairman of the Senior Commission. And I'm just doing a little update on what the Senior Commission is doing. Our Tuesday, Thursday walk in the morning, we do an 8 o'clock in the morning walk around the park, and we try and do about 40 minutes. And we've now got like 4 to 6 people that are doing it with us in the morning, and we're hoping to get more. And then again, it's at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On May 12th, we have an excursion down to Union Station along with a lunch at Felipe's for a nice French dip sandwich, hoping to get the second story in it so we can all be together. On June the 20th, we have our community yard sale. So if you're interested in participating, I guess contact the Community Service Department. And then also our Older American of the Year is Dane Linton. We just finally got a hold of him this morning. And on May 13th, we're going to have a celebration over at the Park House. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, there are no other speaker cards submitted.
All right, thank you for all of your input, everybody. We are moving on to the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, can you please read the consent calendar by title only?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are 8 items on the consent calendar for City Council's consideration. The first of the 8 is the consideration of the meeting minutes from the March 24 City Council meeting. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council approve. For the record, the City Clerk's office did not receive any requests for edits or changes. Consent item B is Resolution 26-28, approval of warrants for payment and payments for demand. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council approve Resolution 26-28. Consent item C is a letter of support for Assembly Bill 2215, Urban Water Management Planning. It is recommended that the City Council approve. Consent item D is a memorandum of understanding with the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council approve. Consent E is the second reading of Ordinance 1492 regulating bingo. It is recommended that the City Council approve the second reading of Ordinance number 1492. Consent F is the ratification of administrative increase to purchase order number 26-00174 with Transtech Engineers, Inc. for interim public works project management. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the increase to the purchase order. Consent item G is resolution number 26-27, adopting the equipment rental rate provisions of the Caltrans labor surcharge and equipment rental rates manual for public works cost recovery. Staff recommends that the City Council approve resolution 26-27. And lastly, consent item H is resolution number 26-30, approving a supplemental budget appropriation from the Water Fund Reserve and award of construction contract to General Pump Company, Inc. for well number 4 rehabilitation project in an amount not to exceed $1,161,374.50. It is staff's recommendation that the City Council approve resolution 26-30. Madam Mayor, that concludes my report. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on item number A? Yes.
Can I get my mic on? On item A, on discussion item 12A, it seems that there is a repetitive line in there. It says about that Mayor Lowe closed the public comment and brought the matter back to City Council. That appears just before the sentence, Mayor Lowe opened the podium for public comment. So if you strike that line, everything, the rest of it follows perfectly.
Thank you. Any more questions on A? Questions on B? C? D?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So in the staff report, it was great, but there was, no, to me, I didn't see any discussion. If there was a meet and confer or discussion with our volunteers of the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society and the city in the drafting of the MOU. It's good to hear.
Hello. Layla Regan, your Library and Friendly Neighborhood Library and Community Services Director. We did meet on several occasions with the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society in addition to my attendance at one of their monthly meetings. So they're very much involved, and they're okay with this.
Thank you.
Item E, item F, G, H.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So I had 2 questions about the well rehab project. One was, I noticed that we only got one responsive bid, which, obviously is the one we need to award. But I wondered if there was any opinion on the amount bid, because there was nothing to compare it to with other bids, if the city staff felt that it was reasonable given the scope of the project.
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Councilmember Krebs, yes, that is a good bid. And yeah, we did it through our plan of bids, which goes out to all contractors. So yeah, I was surprised we only got one bid. But the extensive work that's going to be done on that, the value's there.
Great. And it did know that it wasn't in the budget because it was, the project was accelerated given the need. But it wasn't clear from the report whether we have sufficient funds in the water account to cover it, even though it's been accelerated in terms of its need.
Yes, there are sufficient funds in the water fund.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any more questions on H? All right, I'd like to open this to public comment for items on the consent.
Madam Mayor, we have 2 speaker cards. The first is from Leslie Ziff.
Good evening, Leslie.
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and council members, good evening. I'm here because I just wanted to thank the city manager and Layla, Reagan, our city liaison for the Historical Society. We have met many times, and I want to thank them for the work that was put into producing and revising and updating the MOU for the Historical Society. Our concerns were listened to, and they were incorporated into the newer version of this MOU. So I just wanted to let everyone know that I think this is going to work out really well for the next how many years. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Diane Sands.
To add to what Leslie said, no, we definitely want to thank not only Layla for helping pull this together for us to negotiate this, but also the city manager, the city attorney, and city council, who we hope will go ahead and approve this evening. The old document we had was a lease, and it had been in effect for the last 25 years. And now we are going to an MOU, which we're very excited about. And we had many, many meetings within ourselves and with Layla and with Michael. And it has been very productive, and we're very happy. To echo what Leslie says, we hope it will go at least another 25 years. Some of us won't be around probably by then, but maybe even more into the future. So we just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to thank the Historical Society and particularly their leadership for all of the work that they do, because frankly, those museums wouldn't exist without their involvement. So as much as we are happy to allow our staff to negotiate the MOU, really it's the Historical Society that we should be thanking for really making those museums possible.
100%. All right, is there any discussion for items under consent? All right.
Move to approve the consent agenda with amendments to the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move on to discussion. Discussion item A, authorization to initiate a pilot program with Uber Transit for local transportation rideshare services. Good evening, James Carlson.
Good evening, Mayor Lowe and members of the City Council. Discussion item A is a recommendation that the City Council authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with Uber Transit in a form approved by the city attorney. In December, the City Council was provided an update to the local transportation program, and per staff's recommendation, rejected the proposal from the previous contractor, TransDev. Staff was also directed to move forward with a new RFP process, working with the Transportation Ad Hoc Subcommittee, and determine the feasibility of providing a program to provide transportation opportunities while the subcommittee's work and a new RFP are produced. Shortly after the meeting, staff was contacted by Uber Transit with an opportunity to quickly stand up a pilot program that could be used for this purpose. Uber Transit provided a demonstration to the City Council and the city council directed staff to pursue the concept further, and also appropriated $100,000 of the budgeted local transportation Prop A funds to be used for the pilot program. The subcommittee also received a demonstration from the Uber Transit and had the opportunity to speak and ask questions with their representatives. Staff is presenting the framework for this pilot program this evening and is requesting that any final details be completed so that the city manager can enter an agreement for this project. The subcommittee discussed this pilot project and came up with a structure that is included in your report, but I will summarize. The program is available to any ride that originates or terminates in the city of Sierra Madre. All riders will pay the first $2.50 of any ride. The pilot program is designed with 4 tiers. Tier 1 applies to all rides within the city of Sierra Madre, regional hospitals and doctor offices, and the Arcadia and Sierra Madre Villa metro stations. These rides are subsidized by the city at $20 per ride, which will generally cover the whole ride itself. Next is Tier 2, which applies to all rides extending up to 1 mile beyond the city's borders, and also includes Pasadena City College, the shops at Santa Anita, the Los Angeles County Arboretum, and the Hastings Ranch shopping areas. These rides are subsidized by the city at $15 per ride. Tier 3 applies to rides extending up to 3 miles beyond the city's borders, as well as the downtown areas in Arcadia, Old Town Monrovia, and Old Town Pasadena. These rides are subsidized at $10 per ride. And finally, Tier 4 essentially covers all rides beyond the 3-mile radius of the city of Sierra Madre, and these rides are, and they're not covered by any of the other tiers, and these rides would be subsidized by the city at $5 per ride. Staff collaborated with Uber representatives to determine the annual estimates for the program based on existing Uber ridership rate and forecasted assumptions. Your report includes a section that presents 3 scenarios of the pilot program's anticipated popularity and expense. The annual Prop A expenditures range from $108,000 to $168,000, and the city will be able to monitor the use of the pilot program as it is implemented and make any adjustments throughout the program if necessary. Staff is recommending that the City Council authorize the city manager to make any final minor negotiations and execute an agreement with Uber Transit to launch the transportation pilot program. Thank you, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
Madam Mayor, I have a couple. Thank you, Senior Analyst Carlson, for that presentation. Is there an income requirement? Do people have to, is it below a certain income threshold for the subsidization of the rides?
No, that's a great question, and the subcommittee met and discussed both income levels, ADA, possible senior, designations, and they came up with what I think is a really smart idea, is to make it all destination-based. If it's a hospital or a doctor's office, it will go that way. What that does is it frees up staff from doing any administration. We don't have to check anybody's age, anybody's ADA status, or any of that. The destination pretty much drives what the subsidy would be.
Great. Assuming we approve this tonight, how soon could the program be put in place?
We will meet with the Uber representatives, and I also believe that there may be some collaboration with the subcommittee on the finite details. What we have to do is we have to geocache, we have to mark the areas that we are referring to in our tiers with a certain amount of precision. And so there will be a little bit of work with that. The Uber representatives are going to walk us through that. They're going to teach us the dashboard so that we can do the edits and updates ourselves, and we can also learn how to keep track of the data. If you were to ask me, I would estimate it would take no more than 30 days.
All right, so then let's just say for sake of example here that it would be a month to put it in place. That gives us May 15 approximately. So that gives us a month and a half left of the fiscal year. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and so we have $100,000 we've allocated for this fiscal year, right?
That's correct.
And so we're not expected to spend $100,000 in 45 days, right?
That would be wild if it happened, but
Yes,
we're not
okay.
expecting that.
And so then if we don't spend those funds, because we get $175,000 a year, that just goes back into our account and that we can continue to use it? Are we at any risk of losing our annual allocation?
No, we're at no risk of losing any of the annual funding. We did face some funds that could have been lapsing, but we made a deal with the county people at Metro, and we set aside a future larger capital improvement that's centered around local transportation, bus stop improvements, things like that, which give us another 3 years to spend the money.
Great, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor?
Please.
Couple of questions. So the staff report contemplates a pilot period, like a period of time, but I don't think it actually indicates what that period is. And are we going public with any particular commitment to having this program active for any particular period of time?
Sure, the period of time is not defined. What we envision is that our new RFP process with the subcommittee, we will go out and we will hopefully receive a bunch of proposals that are much better than we did in the first round. At that point, we can take a look at the effectiveness of the Uber program and kind of fold that into the proposals that we're looking at and make a determination at that time. From what I understand, there's quite a possibility that we would have both. We would still use Uber for a curb-to-curb service, whereas a new RFP might result in a more of a roundabout shuttle type thing. So it could be a combination, and that's why we didn't want to define the pilot period.
Is there any minimum with Uber that we have to, I feel like they were pretty flexible, but is there
Right.
any like particular period of time that we have to commit to them to use the program?
No, there's not. The pilot description is our own term.
So if we find out that this is very popular and we do actually go through $100,000 in 45 days, we can make adjustments?
We can, yes.
And there are a number of times in the staff report that mention qualified or approved participants. But just to restate what you already said, just to clarify, there is no approval or qualification process to use it other than using it. Anyone could use it for the destinations that described in the various tiers. Is that correct?
That's correct. Basically, it has to originate or end in Sierra Madre. That's the qualifier.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
We did get a pretty intense presentation from Uber, which was great. It was intensive, and they provided a lot of information. And I think you alluded to it in your answer to Councilmember Parkhurst, but we were talking about geofencing, and I think you said geocaching. So we're thinking about places like City of Hope or other hospitals. So first question, like, would City of Hope be in that geofence? And I see that's under Tier 1. And can you explain to me how the fare works? Because I think you said the first $2.50 is the rider's portion, and then we have a $20 subsidy. But what if it's a $30 ride?
They would pay the first $2.50 and anything over our subsidy of $20. We will define our hospitals traditionally, the way our old program did. The furthest east would be the City of Hope. The furthest west would be Huntington Hospital. And then we would work with the subcommittee and, kind of reach out, even with Uber, to take a look at where people are currently taking their rides to medical offices and doctors and identify those in the geocaching and the geofencing.
So will there be an opportunity for residents, let's say somebody has like a non-traditional, their doctor's in a non-traditional space, let's say close to a residential space that's not really a doctor's office hub. Would our residents have like an opportunity to just say, well, actually this is a Tier 1 ride because it's my doctor's office, and we can put that in as one of the geofence or geocache locations?
We've briefly talked about this with the subcommittee. We're going to do our very best to identify what we can at the launch of the program. We will have a method so that people can probably just simply email and ask for a consideration for a location to be included. But we are anticipating some of that happening, especially with doctors' offices being, a lot different in different places.
Thank you. And you mentioned, it mentions 10 trips per month per voucher. And so someone would scan a QR code and then they would be in the voucher program, and then that account can then get 10 rides per month?
That's correct.
Okay, I understand that. And then finally, as far as the forecast and assumptions, you did get into that a little bit. I think we'd expect higher demand than Uber is normally. Did Uber discuss any of the assumptions that, because I'm, again, thinking about the cost. What went to their assumptions? I'm assuming high demand is, a higher demand.
Yeah.
But it's something above what the normal ridership is for Uber at all levels, or just at that high level?
That's why I used the word, assumptions. It was hard to pin them down on a very precise estimate. I was very pleased that they came with a low, a medium, and a high, and it really gives us an idea what to expect. And even the high is about where we're looking to budget this pilot program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So Uber has the data of where trips originate and end, right? And they're using that to help figure out the locations that we can geofence. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then just a clarification, in Table 1, under Tier 2, it says the rider portion of the fare for Tier 2 is 25 cents. I assume that's a typo. It should be $2.50 for all of them. Is that right?
Correct. That's
okay. I just want to make sure
$2.50, yeah.
I was clear.
I have one follow-up question. I believe when Uber gave their presentation previously, they talked about their ability to help us manage the rollout of this and the communication to the community, because I do note in the report, as well as just understanding how it works, that people are going to have a smartphone with an Uber app to be able to participate in this, or have a phone that they can use to call the number, which I think will be fairly cumbersome. So I believe they said that they would help as part of this program with our communication efforts to the community, and they have ideas about how to best do that so that we can get the information out.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite benefits. They really are reaching out to help us with the publicity and to answer some of the questions, specifically about the non-electrical, the non-app use of this program and how it would be done with a more traditional phone.
Thank you.
And just to follow up, and if just for the benefit of people who weren't listening to the presentation when Uber came, this also includes transportation for somebody, let's say, that needs wheelchair access as well, so a paratransit type of transportation?
Yes, it does. It's they call it WAV, wheelchair accessible vehicle, and those are eligible for all the subsidies like the regular cars are.
And it's, as far as you understand, it's the same rate for mile or for time, however they do their rates.
Generally, so it's hard to pin that down with Uber because it's a demand-based rate. So it is depending on what time of day and things like that. So we did our best with their assistance to try to nail that down with the estimate. Yeah.
Jean, you have any questions? My one question was, is one time we were looking at encouraging visitors to Sierra Madre. And I do know that we have the Tier 4, which would cover $5 of that. But I'm guessing that looking forward, if we really want to encourage visitors to come to our city, that we would have to subsidize it at a higher amount than $5. Maybe it would be under one of the other tiers with a longer span, a wider span of distance. So I'd encourage if the Transportation Committee, once we pull this out, if we really do want to encourage people to come to our city, and especially for our playhouse or our dinners and our restaurants and shops, that would be part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. That is noted, and that has been discussed for a little bit more of an enhancement in the future.
Great, thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, any more questions? I'd like to open this for public comment.
Madam Mayor, there are no speaker cards submitted for this discussion item.
All right, open up for discussion. Councilmember Creeps?
I mean, I think this is exactly what we asked for, right? I mean, we asked for an interim program that we could spin up quickly so that, we could get some relief to our residents after having such a long delay without our motor coach. So, I mean, I want to commend the staff and, thanks to Uber for coming and presenting and having such a great product. So, I mean, I'm wholeheartedly in support.
I'll add my voice to that, too. I think it's just exactly what we asked for. Very optimistic and hopeful that it'll work out.
I have to say, too, that when I was looking at our old programs, seeing our bang for our buck, basically, and how much we're getting for how much we're spending, it was astronomical how much we're spending. I know there's a need, but it was so much we're spending on a small portion of our city. So I think this is a much better response and answer to what we can do for everybody.
Yeah, I just want to commend staff as well, because what we asked for was something expedited, and this sounds like it's being expedited. And yeah, just a reminder, I believe with our roundabout, it was about $110 per rider. So $20 per rider, taking someone to the hospital sounds like a bargain. So I'm happy with this, at least for a pilot, and see how it works. I'm really encouraged and happy to see finally we have a stopgap at a minimum.
I'll echo what my colleagues have said on it. I'm glad to see this move forward. I just encourage keep the pedal to the metal, as they would say in this, and excited to see the RFP come forward and get a permanent solution in place. I think this is a great outcome, and want to thank staff and the subcommittee members for all their hard work on this.
All right. May I have a motion?
Move to approve the initiation of a pilot program with Uber Transit and to authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement to do so.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, our next agenda item is what I'm sure many of you are here for, is the report, discussion, and direction regarding citywide special events policy recommendations and the policy recommendation action to provide direction. That was printed odd.
Good evening, Mayor, and council members. Ted Taggart, Library and Community Services Supervisor. I'm here tonight seeking direction on a proposed special events policy for the city of Sierra Madre. The intent of this policy is to establish clear, consistent framework for how special events are managed, while improving transparency, defining roles, and aligning with city cost recovery goals. At the same time, the policy continues to support community events that enhance quality of life for residents. Currently, the city does not have a comprehensive administrative policy guiding special events. While municipal code provides the authority to issue permits, it does not provide clear operational guidelines for how events should be managed on a day-to-day basis. As a number and complexity of events have increased, practices have evolved over time, but have not always been consistent. There are also no standardized application timelines, which create challenges for planning, coordination, and resource allocation. In addition, cost recovery has not been applied consistently. As a result, the city is currently absorbing approximately $78,000 annually in event-related costs. This policy is intended to address those gaps and bring structure and consistency to the process. To address these issues, the policy establishes 3 clearly defined event categories. City-produced events are planned, organized, and operated by the city and are funded through annual budget process. City-sponsored events are organized by outside organizations but receive approved city support either in kind or financial. Applicant-driven events are independently organized and do not receive city support beyond standard permitting. This framework defines the level of city involvement in each type of event. And I want to make a note, in the cost recovery section and also in the policy, we have the July 4th event listed as a city-sponsored event. It should be a city-produced event. The numbers were included correctly, but I have them miscategorized when I pull it out. So we do have an MOU with the events committee. So my apologies for that error there. Fiscal impact. From a fiscal perspective, the city currently incurs approximately $78,000 annually in costs associated with special events. Of that total, about $49,000 are attributed to applicant-driven events, where no cost recovery is currently applied. These costs are spread across multiple departments, including police, public works, and library and community services. I don't mention fire there because fire doesn't get involved as much, but they do have some involvement occasionally. This includes police staffing for traffic control and public safety, public works support for setup, breakdown, and facility restoration, and staff time for coordination, permitting, and oversight. This policy also introduced a 2-level sponsorship structure for city-sponsored events. Level 1 applies to requests under $2,500 in city support and can be approved administratively by the city manager. Level 2 applies to requests larger than $2,500 and requires city council for approval. This structure allows smaller routine requests to be handled efficiently while ensuring the larger commitments receive appropriate council oversight. So there's some of the changes then with this policy. Under the proposed policy, applicant-driven events will move to full cost recovery. This means that private events will be responsible for the cost of the city services they require, public works, police, and things of that nature. This policy also reduces the use of routine fee waivers, which have historically been applied to all events. It improves tracking of staff time and operational costs, providing better visibility into how resources are used. In addition, the policy introduces standardized application timelines. These timelines range from 45 to 90 days, depending on the size and complexity of the event. As a result, this policy creates a more consistent and transparent process for managing special events. It ensures that events are treated fairly and equitably under a clearly defined framework. It provides better control and visibility over how city resources are used. And importantly, it reduces unbudgeted subsidies for private events, aligning practices with cities' fiscal practices. Overall, this policy creates a more consistent, fair, and fiscally responsible approach while continuing to support community events. Staff is looking for guidance and on the threshold for city-sponsored events, and also recommends that the city adopt the special events policy and provide direction on those sponsoring funding. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
Madam Mayor?
Please.
I have a couple. So first one, it kind of goes back to the question I had regarding the MOU of the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society. So we have a list of events and we know the people that are involved. Was there like a meet and confer, sit down with those that are applicant-driven that pretty much happen every year, or was this all provided by staff?
We were sort of letting the word be known for the last year or so, but there have not been any meetings specifically on this, no.
Can I follow up on that? You notified every one of these groups?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, one of our staff emailed Alderman, we were having the topic was on the meeting tonight.
When was that sent out?
Sometime last week.
Oh, okay.
My next question is regarding the Excel spreadsheet that's on the back of the staff report, and specifically like the police cost. Is that us bringing in extra staff, or is that staff that's already on for like Sierra Madre? Let's say the first one is the opening day parade for the Little League. We bringing extra staff on for that, or is that existing staff?
Additional staff.
Okay.
So that, and then when they come in as additional staff, they're on overtime, so that's why the charges are where they're at.
Can I ask a related question before we move off of that?
That's my last question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have other questions, but specific to the cost estimates. On the community service allocation, is that time spent outside sort of the ordinary course? I mean, because a lot of what the community service department does, as you well know, is help plan events. So I guess where did we sort of draw the line between kind of what would be a typical allocation of resources to do the function of the department versus, you know, a cost of an event attributable to the community service support?
So my understanding is up to this point, we have not tracked exact time on special events. So staff tried to average the time they spend on events a day. So it could be argued it is their day-to-day task, but special events take up quite a bit of time. There's a lot of back and forth between staff, or getting insurances correct or whatever the process may be. So it's an average, and we are not tracking it going forward.
But that's all in, right? That's whether it's spent at the event on a Saturday or on a Monday, taking a meeting with the organization, like that's just all in?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
Versus
thank
the
you.
police is not. The police is extra, but this is all in.
yes.
Can I ask you a question then also? So why would the value be all the same? Because I know that, say, the candlelight vigil planning and such does not take as much as, say, the 4th of July parade, but it's all the same at $1,090.
So the special, we average 10 hours an event is what the average came out to, and that's where that number comes from, the hourly staff time plus, the burden staff rate plus that time. So it is mostly the administrative side of it, and things like the July 4th event, for example, has quite more involved, but the other event, so that's not counted in this hour. This is more just the special event processing, and then any work that's done, around.
So that should be probably more specific then, according to the events?
Yes.
And is the question about that, is the Charlie Bell Memorial an annual thing? I think it just happened because he just passed.
It just happened
Are we
once, so
anticipating that's going to be an annual event? Okay. I was going, oh, wow, that's special.
it happened in the last year, so I
Yes.
added it.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, do we have any history of these events? I think, some of the feedback we received is that some of these were things that the city did in the past and then had organizations do going forward. Do we know some of the history of, like the Wisteria Festival is a good one, right? I think at one point the city did lead that, I think. Do we have the history of these ones that are well, I guess the history of all of them, so we've got an idea of which ones have transitioned over time and what the logic was behind them?
You are right, that has happened historically. I don't have the institutional knowledge myself. I could do some more research on that for you, but I do know a few have changed over the years. In the last 20 years even, I would say they've changed.
And how does this policy compare to policies in other neighboring cities?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Yeah, no, go please.
It is very similar. We did look at our surrounding cities, even farther out, try to find out what those cities did for cost recovery, and this mimics a lot of those.
So you took the input from those to put it into this policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the determination between what is a city event and not a city event. So if it is a 501(c), like Friends of the Library, that their fundraising is for our city library, and they're subsidizing our city by paying for all of the major things that they're paying for already at over like $100,000 a year at least, and coming up to $1 million this next year. We're going to charge them to subsidize us?
Under this policy, yes. They would be considered not a city event. It would be an applicant event.
So I have a question, just popped in my head regarding the charges and the fees. I think this predates you, City Manager Bruckner, but we did have Wildan do a cost recovery fee study. Did we have community services within that fee study? Does anybody recall? And could we look back to that to have an understanding of how long it takes to process these things?
We do have a special event permit that includes that analysis. That is part of the basis of what community services included in their rates in terms of what they're charging for the processing of the application. Those costs, though, only include staff time.
I believe that was only $293 too, correct?
I think it's dependent upon the size of the event,
I'm sorry,
the fee rate.
You're asking about
fee
staff, the rate for the staff?
That
or
we
for-
publish in our fee study.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
for,
our fee rate.
I have it here, hold on. Are you asking about community services staff directly, or?
Yeah, just wondering. You're prepared.
Yeah, I brought a lot, yes, sir.
While Supervisor Tegert's looking for the information, so the Wildan fee study only includes cost recovery related to staff time. It does not include things like supplies and materials and some of those other things. We're just looking at the processing.
I'm just looking at that column. So community services prep, 1,090. Community services manager and library manager, Taggart said it's 109 an hour. We see that estimate of 10 hours. So that, I think that is for the all-in.
Correct.
For staff time specific, okay.
I believe it starts on page 23 of our fee schedule.
It wasn't the fee schedule, it was the fee study. I was
Oh, the
thinking
study,
about.
sorry.
Yeah, well, I believe that's how we got the number on the
Okay.
fee schedule. Is for the
Okay.
study.
And how much what was that?
was a non-local, the permit is let's say a nonprofit, local would be 288.
Yeah, I was just wondering about staff time and the
140.
rate,
Yeah.
because that's what the fee study did.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
look-
rate for recreation staff full-time was 114 per hour, and part-time was $32 per hour. And Public Works engineering staff, which would be rare, 227, and then maintenance staff would be 103 per hour.
So maybe I'm getting off track here. So let's say this policy passes. Would the goal be you will track staff time and then allocate it? Right? So this 1,090 is almost arbitrary?
It is, yeah, I had to come up with a number
No, I
that
understand,
seemed
yeah.
average, but yes, but we would track, going forward, police, public works, all departments would track those times, so we'd be able to accurately charge.
Understood. Thank you.
Included in that, we have, I have a question about the non-ability to waive a fee, but in our TUP, we do a lot for one nonprofit once a year to waive that fee. Wouldn't this be the same type of thing?
It is, and I was going to ask for some direction on that too, because we have not been following that policy since I've been here at least, so that was another question I had about that. We've been waiving all fees.
Okay.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. So currently, we have permit application fees for events, right? And do we know how those amounts are set? Is that part of our fee study? That's that 200 and,
Yeah.
it's obviously.
Based off of the size of the event.
Right, but obviously that fee is not anywhere near what we're talking about here for cost recovery. So obviously that fee was set in such a way that it wasn't intended to be a full cost recovery. Is that an appropriate way to look at that?
I don't believe so. I think it was intended to be full cost recovery, but that was just for the application processing portion of it.
Oh, just the processing of the application, not
Correct.
the cost of the actual staffing of the event?
Correct.
Okay. That being said, I was the Community Service Commission liaison, and most of us have been. And to your point, a lot of what their agenda is on a given meeting is the approval of fee waivers for these events. And I'm pretty confident in saying that I never saw the commission not waive a fee. So I guess my question is the consensus from the commission that there was concern that the fees should be being paid, but yet they were waiving them? So I'm just trying to reconcile kind of what we're trying to do here versus what the practice has been up until this point, because, I've never not seen a fee get waived.
I have not seen it, not been waived in my time at least here either, and I believe from the staff's point of view, it was just a thought of cost recovery as we move into the budgeting and things like that. We were looking at that we weren't recovering costs, so how can we address
Right,
that?
and beyond just the cost of the permit
Correct.
recovery, also recovering costs related to the actual event itself.
Correct.
Thank
They've been, and just for clarification, they're only waiving, things they would waive are only like park fees they use to park, for example, or any city facilities, and then the special event permit fee itself. That's generally all we waive.
Right, but we weren't charging for anything else, right? So so essentially these events have thus far been, as to the city's perspective, cost-free to these organizations. Thank you.
So a question about the agenda item. Was this, so one of the reasons we hired the city manager was to streamline, and one of his things was, there's a lot of policies that we don't have here in Sierra Madre. We need to memorialize a lot of the policies and get streamlined on that front. Was this something that was brought to us by the commission? Was this an agenda item from the council, or is this purely from staff?
I think it's a combination of both council-driven and staff-driven. Council-driven in the sense that you all have charged us with trying to generate additional revenue to solve the city's budget crisis, but
Yes.
also staff-driven for the reasons that you explained, that we haven't memorialized these processes. And there are some inconsistencies, and I have heard, well, are we providing funding for this event? Why are we doing that? It shouldn't be in the budget. Why are we subsidizing this? We agreed not to, but the practice is what the practice has been.
So some of it is equity amongst groups, so there's.
Correct.
We not playing favorites or non-favorites.
Correct.
Okay.
We treat everybody the same based off of their reason for coming to us.
Thank you.
So it's not based on those that give back to our community or are helping our city. It's just based on every community group.
Not as constructed, but that's a policy decision of the council, right? So if you choose to amend this policy to create those carve-outs for those groups, that is subject to the purview of the council.
I'll wait for public comment. Anybody else have more questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to open up this for public comment. I see a lot of you out there. Please, please come and give comment.
Madam Mayor, the first speaker is Leslie Ziff.
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members, I'm going to put on several hats for this talk right now. I want to be representing the Historical Society Board, the Friends of the Library Board, and the Chamber of Commerce Board. So I'm speaking to you from all of those groups. I hope that you have received and read the letter from Michelle Keith that was sent to all of you. She was able to note the concerns that I believe many of us here represent the local nonprofits have about this policy, the concerns. If it wasn't for our local volunteers, the nonprofit groups, many of the events that occur within our city would not happen. Let me read to you shortly a short part of the Mountain View News article, Walking Sierra Madre, by Deanne Davis. And she talks about, in this article, a part from a page that Mandy Rodriguez said in her article, that she was taken aback by the sheer volume of friendliness of the people and all the things there were to do and see. And she's talking about Wisteria Day. This was my favorite part. The glue that holds communities together is very visible during all of these events within our city and continues to strengthen the hold. That enthralled me the most. What enthralled me the most was getting to see a community share in the excitement of the annual Wisteria Festival and how connected the community of Sierra Madre is. Now, what could be a better praise than that for our city? I hope that the work on this special events policy is not finished, that you think about who is truly involved in all the work that goes behind the scenes of all of these wonderful events that we have. Don't create fees that are unattainable to our nonprofits, thus eliminating the very events that this city is known for. Thank you in advance for your due diligence with the respect to this important decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Diane Sands.
Welcome back.
The triumvirate, triple crown. I'm actually following up again on Leslie. She's beat me to the punch. But I'm speaking on behalf of the Historical Society as the current president. This kind of blindsided us. None of us really were asked about anything to do with this. And as much as we are sympathetic and empathetic to how the city does need money, we understand that because we often need money. Times are getting harder. People don't get membership. Food costs are going up if you have an event. Still, I don't think the nonprofits, and specifically I can talk about the Historical Society, will benefit from this at all. I looked at the spreadsheet that you guys had, and the cost for the Historical Society over at the right side was over $2,000. Now, when we do our chicken dinner in the park, we will be lucky to have a profit of $2,000. We have to pay food costs. And the city has been gracious to us and brought us tables and chairs and given us the permit for the park. You know, we don't use any kind of police activity or anything like that. It's just those simple things. But $2,000 basically means, why should we have the event? And if we were to have the event, I actually went out and priced tables and chairs. If we went to an entity that's in Arcadia, in our backyard, and priced tables and chairs to come in, I come up with, and including their delivery fee, $520. They would bring us tables and chairs, and they would pick up tables and chairs. So that's $520 we would pay. And then if we have to now pay a permit on top of that to the city, that's $533 according to that chart. We come up to a little over $1,000. That's still half the amount that that spreadsheet is showing. And it's just a plea that your nonprofits are trying to help your town. We don't do this just for our own fun and games. We're disseminating the history of this town. And as Kelly said earlier, if the Historical Society wasn't here, nobody would know the history of this town except snippets here and there. And as Leslie said, I ask you guys to please look at this policy again and consider it, and consider the volunteers who beat their brains in to really take care of this town and make sure we're known as a good place to be and visit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Jeannie Martin.
Good evening, Jeannie.
Take your time, Jeannie.
Absolutely.
This is Jeannie hurrying. Slow.
You're getting pretty speedy now.
Okay, good evening to Madam Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and the City Council. Thank you for this chance to speak about the proposed special event policy changes. I represent the Friends of the Library. I'm honored to be the president currently of the board of the Friends of the Library, and we are the sponsor of the Art Fair. The Art Fair that provides money for the Friends to give to the library. We were lucky enough to be able to raise over $650,000 that we donated to the library. And every year, we augment the city budget with $55,000 for programs. It's kind of ironic that we just had the library of the month of the library or the week, library week, and talking about all that library does, and yet we're talking about cutting back our revenue. Okay, the Art Fair is our major fundraiser, and with the proposed increase in fees, our event would become unprofitable. Sierra Madre is a very special community with a history of volunteerism, relationships, and support. Businesses, restaurants, citizens, nonprofits, all working together to support and enrich the community. Increased fees will erode some of the characteristics that make Sierra Madre so special. Have you considered what is being lost with the plan to raise fees for so many different nonprofits? The city may save a few dollars, but the loss to community far exceeds the assumed savings the city will have. There is the intangible loss to businesses of the community and the reputation of the city. These events bring visitors into Sierra Madre, people who are discovering this charming community for the first time, and others who are returning for special events. The respect for history and tradition is valued in Sierra Madre, and one of the things that makes the community extra special. Values we should all support and embrace. I sincerely hope you will take into consideration all of this as you make your decision.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a quick question, Jeannie? Ms. Martin?
Slowly.
Yeah, no worries. Did you say that the art fair grosses $650,000?
No, that through the Art Fair, we raise the funds to contribute to that. No, it does not gross $650,000,
Okay.
but it's our major fundraiser towards that.
It's the major fundraiser.
It's the major fundraiser.
But your gross revenues in a year is about $650,000.
we've been accumulating that for a number of years through wise investments and any possible fundraiser we can come up with.
So 650 is, it's not what you get every year, it's what
No,
you have,
no,
okay.
no,
I just want to make sure it was
no,
clear
it's
on that
what we-
point,
no,
thank
It
you.
was the one time that we had that amount to start with the library as it was renovated, but $55,000 we guarantee every year for programs.
Got it, thank you.
Okay?
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Russ Meek.
Good evening, Russ.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, friends. Mr. City Manager, we haven't met, but appreciate you and all the city staff, the work that went into this proposal, a little bit of study. I know that this is a consideration in progress. I always get emotional when I come up here because it's rare, but and you catch me, pardon my attire, off the field, digging in the dirt after the rain. But you know, those of you who've been behind the scenes with me building the boards, we need accountability, we need timelines. You know, I'm a businessman at heart. We need net proceeds that are positive. So some of these events that are being described are very small and they can't survive it. Some of the events we throw are pretty big. I used to throw huge events at the elementary school and Christmas tree lots and things. When the production costs go up, though, no matter how much the net proceeds are, activism creeps in, and that'll kill the event. So, you know, I took the kids way up to Northern California, and Sierra Madre came with us. You know, beginning of spring break, we were in the middle of nowhere, east of Mount Shasta. There was this amazing property on a hill and a wisteria vine. And my daughter June said, I'm raising my kids in Sierra Madre. And it's the events. So I think that, you know, I don't want to come up here and just be emotional about it. We have to come up with a solution. If that's the total dollar amount, it's almost like a few people get together and make it happen every year. But one thing I know we don't do enough of as we're recruiting our new boards and the few board meetings that have happened, again, I represent Rotary right now, the leagues, events committee as well, and anyone who hasn't read Michelle's letter in detail, while she normally comes in hot, that was an awesome letter. We love her. I just had to say it, but it was an awesome letter. Like, read that letter, and it's a tiny slice. So I think that we should have a panel of some of the smart business people to get back into the history of it, how it runs, and some of the stronger organizations. How do we pitch in our marketing, our sponsorship? Let's put together something to address this. But we can't put it right there on the event or it's going to kill the event, regardless of the size, regardless of the net proceeds of the event. It's not the place to start. So again, thank you for all the work that went into it so far. I'm here anytime. You all know I'm on speed dial. But I really would love to support this, and I know so many board members would as well. So thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Russ.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Carol Canterbury.
Hi, Carol Canterbury, 46 Victoria Lane. I've been here since 1986. And I was going to read Michelle's letter, but I'm glad y'all have it. I represent right now Sierra Madre Events Committee. That's the main committee that I'm on now. And we're forever looking for new volunteers, more money, how to cut costs. And then during the year, I help Father Mike and Father Tom with the the candlelight walk. And that's always the Sunday before Christmas. And it involves 8 different churches. And yes, it's predominantly Christian. And Father Mike and Father Tom somehow always take care of the insurance. So, but for us to have to come up with more money, I don't think we could even pull that off. And right now, it's pastors, and there's no money. Things like with Wisteria Festival. A lot of the things, I did it for many years with Susan Henderson, and you would end up putting your own money into it to cover stuff because it was just easier than trying to find, no parking signs, more no parking signs, things like that. And everything adds up. And then to have, I resigned to the fact that we don't have Huck Finn anymore, and we probably won't get it back. I resigned the fact that we don't have Pioneer Days, which was lovely, but it's things like that that just go away. And yes, I'm a realtor. I do make a living selling houses. And the people, when they come here to Sierra Madre, 9 times out of 10, they don't even know how they got here. They're like, where is, they took a wrong turn, or they did, the east-west, north-south Sierra Madre Boulevard thing, and they always end up meaning Pasadena, and they end up in Sierra Madre. And then it just migrates around. So a lot of these events also, it attracts to the businesses. So, and they're all struggling, that, so it's like adding another $3,000, $5,000 to an event, it would kill things, literally. And even like with the firemen, with their car show that they have, it's like defeating the purpose of raising money and then having to pay another, $3,300? And it's just, it just keeps going. So, and I put in a lot of years, my husband did, and people before me did. So I take it very personal. I do love this town. And, things like the trail. I'm telling you, most of that stuff came out of people's pockets. It didn't come out of, they didn't get reimbursed, refunded, and not to mention all the time on there. So it's like you can't lose it. We'd have to go back for Lizzie's Trail In and start doing bootleg
Thanks, Carol,
moonshine
so much.
and
We
then
don't have a
sell
clock
it.
anymore, sorry.
Oh,
It's
no
right
clock?
there. Sorry.
Oh, okay, it
I'm
says
so
3
sorry.
minutes. Yeah, so eventually we'd have to start selling moonshine.
Revenue committee didn't think of that one. Yay.
Can we add moonshine to bingo?
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Lindsay McFarland.
Good evening, Lindsay.
Good evening. I'm a little nervous. This is my first time. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Pro Tem, council members. My name is Lindsay McFarland. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm the Vice President of Sierra Madre Girls Softball. I don't see anybody from baseball here too, so I'll throw them into this also since my kids play there too, and I know they would probably feel the same. I'm a Sierra Madre resident. I'm pretty new. I've been here for 2 years. We mainly came here because of softball and because of the events. I look forward to them all year long. And a lot of them I didn't know weren't city sponsored until I got that email. The opening day is my favorite day of the year. I know a lot of the other families feel the same way. The parades that we have are so unique compared to the other leagues. I don't think I know of any other leagues around that have the same parade. Sorry, why do I get so nervous?
It's okay.
But as a board, accessibility and player experience are really our priority. Yeah, we go and win some championships and we take the Sierra Madre name with us, but we don't ever turn away any players. We have a sponsorship form, and anyone that wants any kind of sponsorship, we always cover it 100% of the time. During the fires, we helped out a lot of girls. We still pay for equipment for players. If there's somebody that we know needs a glove, the board will cover it. We don't want to tell people they can't play softball because they can't afford it. And our priority is really the girls. This last year, we noticed a lot of other leagues were raising their fees. Everything's more costly. I think we raised ours just a few dollars because the same thing. We didn't want to make it harder for people to come and play softball. I won't repeat a lot of what everybody said. There's already been a lot of good points made. but we're run by volunteers. We have 345 girls and their families. We try to give them the best volunteer experience they can have. We go pounding pavement, begging for money every year, asking for donations. I know a lot of you have been there doing the same. And this is a lot of money for us. It would really impact our ability to provide those same services to the girls, the community, their families. So I hope the city will consider the nonprofit status of these organizations and the benefits of these events that they bring to the community when considering this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is John Capocha.
Hello, former mayor.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. It's good to be here. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I think you're hearing, what the community feels about this. But I'd like to just say, for example, like Mr. Parkhurst, what you said, the Wisteria event was once run by the city and now is done by volunteers. Well, if the city would just take it over again, problem solved, right? You would bear all the costs and you would do the extra labor that volunteers are doing today. So I don't think that's practical, but I just want to make that point. I think this is really easy to solve because a city-sponsored event, according to your policy here, is a special event organized by a non-city entity where the city council or the city manager approves in-kind services. So basically, if you just approve these events, everything is the same, right? You've been paying them all along, you continue to pay it, and then we move from an applicant-driven event to a city-sponsored event. That's the answer. Just continue to support this. You know how much these things mean to the citizens of Sierra Madre. And just again, I think it's pointed out in Michelle's letter too that I think it's called the COSMAT report. Did I get that right? COSMAT. Okay, that report is saying we need to do more of this stuff, not less. And those of you who were around in the 80s, our downtown was pretty blighted back then. And now it's thriving, which I've always said is a benefit to the residents of Sierra Madre that we have a thriving downtown. If you were to implement this and not approve these events, that's going to start to deteriorate our downtown. Because I'll tell you, for the Wisteria event, no way are we going to pay $8,000. It's just going to die. So anyway, I appreciate everybody who's come out to speak against this, but I think this is solvable, and I'm very confident that you guys know Sierra Madre well enough to deal with this in an effective way. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
I have no other speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Any more speak? All right, we'll bring it back to discussion. Just a note, every single person who came up here has won awards in Sierra Madre for Citizen of the Year, Volunteers of the Year, Hometown Heroes. Every single one, especially in this last year, 3 of them who came up are our heroes of our town.
Mayor, one thing I don't want to be lost in the conversation is the reimbursement to the city is one aspect of this, but determining what constitutes a city-sponsored event is another important part, because what constitutes a city-sponsored event will also trigger, for the city attorney's office, talking to the city manager about engaging in MOUs with those people so we can figure out what the relative responsibilities are. So reimbursement is one part, but figuring out what constitutes a city-sponsored event versus an applicant-driven event is also another important part of this.
I would have liked to have seen the MOU from the Sierra Madre Events Committee entered into this because it was a really well-done paperwork. Thank you so much for bringing that forward. A few years ago, the Sierra Madre Events Committee did come forward, and the city signed an MOU with them with stated responsibilities of what was it's a city event, but what the events committee would be reimbursing for and would be paying for, such as liability insurance, other costs. So I think that, I really wish that was put in here because it's exactly what I think we all would like to look at in terms of what could be better policy. Because it was a really well done, and if you guys would like to see it, we can forward it to you.
Few things, I guess. Thank you for all the public comment. You know, some of the comment reminded me of Mayor Capocho when he was here in his capacity as Vector Control Board President, because what you said, you're going to have to pay $1 million for a Prop 218 ballot to raise $1 million, and that doesn't make much sense, right? So yeah, some of these events wouldn't make much sense if they're not, if you know, you got to pay for them. So, you know, I want to take a step back and kind of, and that's why, you know, I wasn't sure of the answer, but I asked that question of the city manager regarding what was the impetus for this. He is charged, and we are charged with cutting cost here, right? So the reality is this council has given guidance to run another year of deficit spending. And I think this is part of what we're talking about here. But going forward, these are the real things we need to discuss regarding cuts because we can't continue to deficit spend. But I'm preaching to the choir. All the people here know all this. They know where our city budget is, and they know the issues. And newer people, thank you, Ms. McFarland, for coming, because when people come to this town, they think, oh, look at all these great things that are happening. They don't realize it's all volunteer-driven or subsidized by the city. They don't just happen. We do have a wonderful spirit of volunteerism here. So, you know, some of the issues are many of the events are put together by volunteer groups. Every single one of the 5 of us came out of a volunteer group of one or another. So it's the lifeline for our city council and our commissions. It's a lifeline for our property values to stay high. It's really the spirit of this city. Thinking of the cost-cutting measures that I hear, the art fair with Friends of the Library, they have Troop 110 act as security guards at night. And then speaking of Troop 110, chicken ravioli dinner, who sets up the tables and chairs and breaks them down, right? So we're just layered and volunteer to get stuff done here. And those are the things that really speak to the spirit of the city and that intangible thing. But to be fair, we did charge our city manager with cutting costs and also prioritizing having processes for things to happen, because a lot of it was just word of mouth, and that's not a way an organization should run. So I want to thank the public speakers for giving grace on some of this, because that's what our city manager has been charged with. Really that's kind of what I wanted to kind of say up front, aside from some of the specifics here, because, you know, we know all these people, and we've worked alongside of them as volunteers. And again, Sierra Madre is, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for a lot of these events that may not happen in the future if we do charge them.
Quick question before we go. How many of these events have MOUs in place?
Currently, we have 4 events, 1 event. So it's just going to be the Special Events Committee putting on the 4th of July. But we have 4 MOUs now with the most recent you approved today with our respective organizations.
But not event-specific, just organization-specific.
Correct.
I think that this issue, out of anything that we have faced over the last couple of years around our fiscal thing, I think puts into stark contrast the difficulty that we face, right? Because as everyone has said, and I don't think anyone here disagrees, these type of events are why we live here, why we love living here, why we serve on council to protect this community. But the flip side is, I don't think many of our residents understand what it takes, either from a volunteer perspective, as you all well know, because volunteerism is, is healthy, but not necessarily has a great succession plan in many of your organizations. So it's, people don't realize that these events are being put on by people, and they're, as to Councilmember Garcia's point, being subsidized heavily in many instances by the city. And yet constantly we're being told that people don't want to pay and they're paying too much in taxes. And so, again, we're preaching to the choir in this particular room, but I'm somewhat hopeful that this discussion can leave this room and maybe filter through your organizations and other people that you know, so people truly understand that these benefits of living here don't come for free, except for the people who just show up expecting them to be free. So I really think that I would like to use this as a platform for education, not only, discussions like Mr. Meek was talking about with our organizations about how to fix the fiscal impact, that sort of direct problem, but beyond that, as a community conversation about what it means to have these intangible benefits of living here and yet expect them to be provided to you without any contribution of your time or your dollar or some other contribution. I mean, I have a snarky remark that I make when people criticize these kinds of events. I'm sorry, am I not volunteering hard enough for you? Like, is my volunteerism not, enough for you? I used to say that in Little League a lot because you get a lot of criticism from people, in Little League, and it's like, I'm sorry, is this not properly free for you? So I do think, and I don't want to be snarky about it, but I do think that there is a huge gap in most people's understanding of what it takes to have these things available, and people sort of expect them and then don't make the connection between then wanting to, like, as I said, pitch in some way. So anyway, that's that. Again, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but I'd like to make this a platform for having this conversation, because I think it's a small microcosm of the larger conversation we have to have about services in general and what people are willing to pay for and what people are expecting for, not paying anything at all.
I agree with you, most of what you said. I commend our staff, I commend our city manager for taking this on, because we told you to save money. Because we are in deficit this year, we're using our reserves this year. Is that how you want us to fund your government? I'm thinking, how do we go about squaring that circle? We all have our favorite events. We all benefit from all these volunteer-driven events. And in the perfect world, we would not only subsidize them at the current level, but we could probably be subsidizing them at a higher level. I've made that argument before with reference to the Playhouse. But we don't have that kind of money. We're not in that perfect world. So I think out of this conversation, we ought to have, I like the idea of a policy to drive this, so everybody knows where we stand. And I think having some idea that, hey, we know that you can't afford X amount of dollars. We have an idea what your financial status is. Most of these organizations that came up and talked tonight, I think you're probably understating how financially liable you are if we did this. I don't have any interest in cutting your legs out from under you, but I would like to see us working with you, developing MOUs where there's a mutual understanding that where we can talk about ways where we might be able to cut costs, where we might be able to find ways to jointly raise revenue, start to think a little bit outside of the box so that we both can kind of think a little bit new. I think things are quite static, and I think the times require us to be a little bit more innovative. But I have no desire to cut the legs out from anybody tonight. I don't think any of us do. Having said that, we are going to do a budget this spring. The staff's in the process of putting one together. We're going to have 2 different budget workshops in the month of May. I implore you all to come to those budget workshops and tell as many people as you can to join you, because we're going to be looking at a lot of line items in the budget. And if we are trying to raise revenue, we're not going to cut subsidies for volunteer organizations, then we need ideas on where we are going to make cuts or where we are going to try to raise revenue. We're not wizards up here. We need the help of the community to decipher this. So I just thank you all for showing the community spirit to come out here late on a Tuesday night. And I think we all needed to hear. I think we all knew where you were coming from. I think we all, I'm not speaking for everyone else, but I think we all feel the same way you do. But it's great to hear it now and then too. You know, it's great to hear that we're all on the same page. So I would like to talk about developing a policy where we actually sit down with each group and we actually work out MOUs, and not that we're talking about imposing new fees on them, but maybe starting to work on discussions on how we can kind of semi-formalize some of these things. Also, I thought Councilmember Krebs, question is true. Some of these organizations don't have great succession plans. So for a couple of years, you have somebody who's just going gangbusters, and all of a sudden they leave or retire, and then who do we deal with? What are we going to? So if we could have some discussion about that in the MOU, are there people rising up that can be brought into those discussions, right? I think that might be a useful thing as well.
I want to thank all the conversations, both from all the people here that came and gave their perspectives. I will echo what my colleagues have said here is that the volunteerism and the events are what makes the city so unique. I also really appreciate all the thoughtfulness my fellow council members have had, and will amplify exactly what they said. I think one of the things that rang most to me was with Councilmember Krebs on we need to use this as a platform to springboard, to be looking at what we need to do going forward. And as Councilmember Goss said, we're going to be going into the budget. We have 2 full sessions that we will be going line by line in the budget in more detail than I've ever gone into in my time on council, and probably that we've gone into in a very long time. And we need your help because we really need to be able to figure out where we're going to cut. As others have said, we're running a deficit, and we can't keep running a deficit. We can't print money like the federal government does, right? We have some reserves. We are using them strategically. We're using them in critical places, but that's not going to last for very long. And at some point, it's going to come to a point where we can't fund the core services that we have to as a city. As a city, the first 2 things that we're charged with doing is providing public safety and infrastructure. And we have to do those 2 things first, and then after that, everything else gets done. And that's the hard part, right? Or even those 2 are hard, frankly. But we have to be thinking really strategically and really tactically about how we're going to continue to have this be such a wonderful community, such a great place to live, such a great place to just walk down the street and see friends and neighbors at all the different events. And so, and then finally, I want to thank staff for bringing this forward. This wasn't an easy thing to create. You've gotten a lot of feedback on it. We'll continue to have a process on it, but I think it's a good thing to throw out there. At least it's a good place for the discussions to start.
So, all of us, like you said, we've all volunteered in all of these groups, and we all overlap. And so I do love the good practices of some of the organizations and helping to share those good practices of how we build revenue and how we pay back the city for a lot of these. So just an example of the MOU that we have with Sierra Madre Events Committee is it lists the obligations of the committee and the obligations of the city. So say an obligation of the city will be responsible for securing all trash receptacles and portable toilets. At their committee meetings, they go hand in hand with Russ securing some of those. City will facilitate all public rights-of-way, parks, other public facility closures, encroachments. Sierra Madre Events Committee obligations will reimburse the city for all expenses incurred in obtaining required permits and insurance. They will reimburse the city for all expenses incurred in corresponding with public officials, They will also, any fully burdened overtime rate for city employees. So we have the system. I think these are things we need to mimic, copy where they fit. And then when it comes to organizations that actually provide us with a revenue relief or with expense relief, like Friends of the Library, where those are costs that we would have to pay for programming. We would have to pay for the inside of that library with much of what they fundraised. I would feel horrible charging them money when they're actually giving us a relief to our expenses. So I think there needs to be something that comes to a mutual agreement, and I would like exactly like Jean and like Councilmember Krebs said, that we would absolutely find some types of policies. So it's not just like, well, that might be a city event and that might not. And we do have to look at the historical history of where these came from. The Wisteria Festival started in 1918, and it started as a city event. The chamber didn't take it over till many, many, many years later, more recently. Same with the parade. It was taken over in 1986 by a committee to take over the responsibilities of the volunteerism because the staff, there wasn't enough city staff and there wasn't enough chamber to do it all together, so they inducted a new committee to do that. So there's a lot of history, like Michelle Keith wrote so eloquently in that letter. So I can even help you with all of that. Doug Hayes is out there to help with all that. We have historical preservation, also has a lot of that history, so I think that needs to be embedded into what was a city event and what isn't, and what we should be having as city events.
I completely agree with you. I would say, though, that one of the things that we have to protect against, and one of the reasons I like the fact that we're talking about a policy and talking about, creating an equitable situation for all organizations, is that I do sense, and I think some organizations sense, that there has historically been a little bit of a thumb on the scale for certain events and certain organizations. And what I like about what I like about a policy is that it creates a level playing field for someone who wants to come in brand new and do something different, think outside the box and create something new that doesn't have 108 years of history, and that we're not kind of just going along with the tried and true and relying only on our history, because I do think that we've often been accused of sort of defaulting to our standard go-tos and our long-time events, and I do think sometimes people feel that they aren't given the same opportunities as some of the older guard organizations. So I do think we want to be cognizant of that.
I'd also look at the direction of the obviously the businesses in here that are not nonprofits, and the businesses that also are not necessarily serving our community, but in town serving outside communities. That I wouldn't want to subsidize those either. So I think it would have to be a line by line looking at each organization that presents activities.
Yeah, to that point, you're reading through the MOU of the Sierra Madre Events Committee, and they raise funds to do what? Have an event. Some of these other nonprofits that we're talking about, they don't raise money to have an event. They have an event to raise money. So their MOUs will be completely different, and we need to have bespoke policy on each of these MOUs because of that issue.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when you look at the list, I'm most sympathetic to events that are primarily used for fundraising, and the idea of imposing a particularly high fee. And I would and to Russ's point, I would never sort of do it on a percentage basis. But there are certain organizations that are putting on events that aren't primarily fundraising, and that maybe that's a little bit of a different conversation, because then it's not a matter of reducing their ability to raise funds.
But I'd argue something like Sierra Madre Girls Softball and Little League is an economic engine for our downtown district because it's such a family feel, and the events for the kids. During the season, if you drive up and down Sierra Madre Boulevard or Baldwin on a Friday or Saturday night, filled with uniforms, right? And it's because people just want to stay in town. I mean, most of them, 100% of Little League is from town, but not softball, but they love it. And they want to stay here in town and spend their dollars in our businesses. To former Mayor Capocha's point, our downtown district cannot sustain on the residents alone. We need other people, and then it's a great service for our residents to be able to have nice restaurants and tailors and things like that, Arnold's to then visit.
And I think, to that end, I'd like us to be thinking about kind of other ways that we might be able to do to manage some of the costs, right? We were able to put bollards into Kirsten Court. Now, does that reduce the police cost if we were to have to close off Kirsten Court? Because you wouldn't necessarily have to have a police car and an officer there. So, just for example, would we put bollards somewhere around Sierra Madre Boulevard so you could close off the sections of the boulevard and not have to have the police presence there or as much of the police presence? I don't know if that's the answer or not, but I think that that's the type of idea that I want to try to encourage the city and us as council members to think about is, are there other things we can do to tackle some of the costs that are in here that can allow us to have those events and not incur all of the staff time and the equipment and all of the materials that we have? Because every one of those, I mean, we approved the Caltrans sheet, and so, or the rate part, right? So every K-rail has a cost now. Every cone has a cost. Every barrier has a cost. Like all of that now we've got a cost that we can assign to that. And that allows us to look at it going, all right, are there ways that we can be more efficient or more effective with our resources?
Councilmember Parkhurst, we have those ballards that block off the street.
Yeah.
We do. We have them that block off Kirsten Court and the boulevard.
Yes.
The boulevard
Yes.
and on both sides. Yeah.
Well, that's what we do have it on the boulevard.
We
I
just
forgot
have,
we
they're
just-
the same,
So
same
innovative.
bollards, but
Good
we've
idea.
got the holes. And
But we're not using
we're
them
not using them,
for events.
Yeah.
But we didn't use them for Wisteria, did we? I don't
because
remember us doing
the
them.
event went all the way down, that's why.
But they
Okay.
were.
I hate to bring this up because it's so important for our nation, right? But it's a bitter pill to swallow when we have to subsidize, and I've seen some of the costs for these First Amendment events, and like, I'm not saying they shouldn't happen at all, but it's the amount of money that's going out for that, and we cannot recover anything, and it's almost as though these programs are going to be subsidizing these other events that are, frankly, a lot of people from out of town. That's, to me, a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow. Again, I'm not saying we should not have First Amendment events in town, but they are very expensive as well. So I don't know if it helps the conversation. It probably doesn't, but it's hard for me to want to cut the legs off of these volunteer organizations when we're spending money on other stuff that we can't recover because we have to recover.
I have a question about that. We did bring up before about different locations for that. Could we involve that in this special event type situation where we're looking at moving, say, our
Like First Amendment zones?
First Amendment zones like other cities do? Like, should we look forward to that because it is such a huge cost?
Is that on the agenda? Can we talk about it?
It kind of was in the report.
Yeah, it was.
So,
We had talked internally about time, manner, and place restrictions related to those First Amendment activities, and that was primarily public safety driven, because some of the events get so large that the downtown doesn't have the infrastructure and the sidewalk to support all of that. And in the context of that, it was moving them from the downtown to like Memorial Park. But we would need council direction to create that policy and have those thresholds so that it was clear what the requirements were for that. Sort of related, because we treat it as a special event, we have to resource it. We certainly provide police officers. If we have to do closures, which we've done in the past to Kirsten Court and other places, we have to bring in Public Works and do all of that. But it was sort of separate and apart than this item.
And I also just want to address the elephant in the room. I mean, in the grand scheme, even with our financial situation, $78,000 is not devastating and is not certainly, as many people have pointed out, is not eliminating those costs, is not going to solve our fiscal problem. But we can't say that about every $78,000 or then we're back to where we started. So, we don't want to balance our budgets on the backs of our nonprofit organizations, but this is one of many hard conversations we're going to need to have. And it's unfortunate that this one was the first one because I do think that, there's an overwhelming sense that there's very much symbiotic benefit, from the support that we give to these organizations as opposed to maybe some other line items in our budget, which I'm not going to give an example because I don't have one, but I think it's illustrative of the conversations that we need to be having, and we probably should have been having all along, or at least, before now. And so, I just point that out because I know a lot of people were like, $78,000, like, why are you bothering? Because that's not even that much, and it's not going to help us. But it accumulates, right? 50,000 here, 78,000 there. Like, that's how we actually do have to end up balancing the books, is on little bit, because our big costs, we're not going to cut fire service, we're not going to cut, police service, we can't. And so, that we have to sort of cut around the margins, because that's all we really have the opportunity to cut. And so I do want to just address that, because I know some folks made that point. And that was my first reaction, like, oh, what are we talking about here? It's not that much money. But it's more of the emblematic and sort of what it represents than it is the actual specific dollar amount.
I completely agree with you on that. Absolutely. On the other side, and you mentioned, the fire department, we were looking to add a fire professional to help us with brush abatement and with protecting our homes. And this is what we're having to make the choice of, is that, okay, that's $78,000, that goes a large way towards a position that, or to funding that position in the city. And so we're having to make these tough choices of, well, where do we put the money to help protect the city, right? I mean, the thing that keeps going through my mind from the Eaton fire is, we were one wind shift away from that fire coming straight in the city. And if we can't protect the city, then we don't have any events, right? We don't have a city to have. So it's a really tough conversation that I wrestle with every day on this.
I can say something to that. If we didn't have our community, we wouldn't have a city.
That's true.
This city is community. This city is the city of volunteers. That's what we always have said.
Agreed.
So I can argue that, but guess what, too? If the city did have any damage we ever have gone through, our earthquakes, all of our other disasters, everything we've gone through, it's our community that saves us. It is absolutely our community that puts everything back together. It's our community that says, you can borrow this, I'll let you borrow this, let's put together this fundraiser for this. After the earthquake, we did a fundraiser for a fish fry, I believe it was, and held a fundraiser for all the people that needed help rebuilding their homes. So.
I just want to echo Mayor Pro Tem's point about the budget study sessions. Because, there's a perception, and it's probably a well-deserved perception, that there's a lot of waste in government, a lot of spending, a lot of cuts can be done. We've cut over the last, 12, 15 years, cut to the bone and cut bone. So I would invite people that are skeptical of how things are being spent to come to these sessions to see where, you tell us where the cuts are. Because we've already cut. We went from not having a fire department to having a fire department. Yes, we had a volunteer fire department. I don't want to minimize that. Thank you for your service. But we went from having a volunteer fire department to a fully paid professional fire department without raising taxes. How do you do that? You cut other places. That's why was probably one of the reasons Wisteria Festival couldn't stay with the city. It went to volunteers. And now, as revenues in the city are doing this, and cost of wages, which aren't decided by us, they're decided by the market at large, keep increasing at a greater rate than our revenues do, what can you do, right? So I think that's part of the larger conversation. Again, this is one platform because we know why we live here. This is one platform, as Councilmember Krieb said, for this discussion. So I encourage everybody to come to those study sessions, help us out, because the revenue we have ain't cutting it. We have to have these hard conversations because of this.
Well, and don't just take our word for it or staff's word for it. I mean, we had an ad hoc committee that went to look at all of the expenses and look at the waste in government, and they didn't come back with anything, right? They didn't find any places where we could be more efficient with the funds that we've got.
So do you guys, that's just a discussion for further.
We also need a policy guidance, right? Is that?
So would you like us to kind of word that into a motion for you for direction?
I don't know if we've given policy guidance, but I'm just, with all due respect, I don't know that this is the framework for us to give that policy guidance, because we're just reacting to this. And so I'm just wondering, is there a better vehicle by which we can have the discussion around what the policy looks like, sort of divorced from the fee recovery aspect?
A couple thoughts related to that. Obviously, the city does have a community services commission that studies the sciences of special events. Typically, they do fee waivers, but that could be another medium for review of this policy and public feedback, and try to get more input in terms of what is and isn't a city event. Maybe more specific criteria in terms of what groups should be eligible for city sponsorship. I think former Mayor Capocha sort of found the nut of the policy, which is we're calling these things applicant-driven events because as city staff, we don't have the criteria or the basis to determine what should be city sponsored or not. That's a policy decision. That's a value decision of the city council to make, right? So for us, we look at it, they're applicant-driven events, but for you as elected officials and hearing from members of the community, obviously there's more value in terms of you making that determination than coming from staff. We've already done that once with the 4th of July and the Sierra Madre Events Committee. Certainly open to the idea of entering into more MOUs and agreements with these groups so that there is clarity of purpose and roles, but we have no basis to make that determination. So it could be the council giving us direction based off of criteria that you want to come up with. It could be a subcommittee of the council to get together, 2 of you to study the sciences of this with staff and come up with that criteria and come back. You can send it off to another board or commission within the organization to do all of that and come back. You can adopt it as is, you can table it. Friendly amendments, we're open to whatever path you all think is best and appropriate for this.
The first time I met Alex was when he came to help give direction to the Sierra Madre 4th of July committee back then about why this is a city event and what our duties should be with each other. And I don't know if you remembered, it was over in the Hart House, and I was very impressed. And so I think that education aspect is really valuable because there's some things committees don't realize that what the city has as a burden, and there's certain things that can be traded off, like donation of certain things that can be brought in that then get paid back to the city. So.
Yeah, and I think creative ideas are fantastic because Russ Meek brought up, I was trying to read between the lines on his comment. To me, I envision because he's all for pitching in, right? I gave him all kinds of nicknames when he got that award, right? So I think he's kind of envisioning like a little bit of a pot to throw in to then subsidize some of these things. I mean, I could be wrong, but like if we're gonna ding for a specific event, that event goes away. But if the whole organization says, well, we're gonna give $500 a year to this pot that then subsidizes these types of events, I don't know how that vehicle works, but I think that's creative thinking. And so that's why I like the idea of having either the commission or an ad hoc with the commission come up with some kind of ideas as to how to subsidize or create policy.
The other thing I heard from Russ's, or took away from Russ's comment and other comments, is that we probably need representation on that committee. I mean, I know obviously our Community Service Commission has representation from various groups, but in this particular instance, I think it would be great to have kind of like what we've done in transportation in terms of having some, community organization representation alongside either the Community Service Commission or, smaller group, two of us, to have those conversations, because I think having that bridge between the city and the organizations themselves is, to me, as I said before, like part of the purpose of this exercise is not just to figure out the money, but also to figure out, the communication and the education about this issue and the broader issue. That would be my suggestion.
Excellent.
I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, in the vein of policy guidance, I think we've heard a couple of things here tonight. I think we've heard, the difference between an organization that is running an event for fundraising and an organization that's running an event for community benefit. I think there's differences there. I think other differences that go in my mind is, whether or not you are having to shut down streets. That's a big difference in cost. Whether you need materials or not. So, if, for example, the chicken ravioli dinner, the example about the tables, I think that's a consideration. If there's events that, just need the use of a park, that's going to be different than one that has to shut down from,
one end of the city to the other. And I think we need to right size this in the right way. And I think having a committee really discuss that and talk about that. I mean, they know these events inside and out. I think that having it there would be really valuable.
Yeah, and again, I want to thank staff. Ted, great job with the presentation, and thank you for the work. And Mike, thank you. You know, a lot of people don't know, but I mean, when you see stuff like this, we get a little, you know, some residents get scared. But I think Mike's vision of the city is to not only this wouldn't even be an issue, but to then enhance all the things that happen in the city, have more events, have a youth service, a youth, you know, going back to the yak type of issue, right? Having a recreation department, like having all those things. We just can't do it. We don't have the revenue. If we were to get the revenue, we could do even not only not do this, but have more stuff, right? It's really what the residents want and what the residents are willing to pay for. And I think that's your vision. We can't do it, but if we could, you would want to. I know that. So thank you.
Is that enough direction, or would you like more? So
More
what I'm
direction.
seeing, I guess what I'm seeing, and what I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we would like to pretty much define what are, formalize what are city events and not, what are city sponsored, what their intent is, whether it's a fundraiser for them or whether it's event on its own, and also separate out the ones that are building their own, they're paying it back already in their system. I think there's 2 at least that are so far, and creating MOUs for those events and groups that we don't have them for already.
I mean, that said, I don't know that we need an MOU with every organization for every event. I mean,
I would say the main organizations, like, well, we have one with the chamber, but if there's any other policy, no, we don't have one with the chamber.
No, we don't have one with the chamber.
We actually drafted one for the chamber, but we paused it
Okay.
because we want to get feedback
Okay.
on this first.
Okay, thank you.
But like, I don't think we need an MOU for the historical
No,
foundations,
not for the,
like,
but
you know,
for the
spaghetti dinner, like
historical, for the Sierra Madre
chicken dinner,
historical-
sorry.
Yes.
So, Mr. City Manager, you had in mind us taking a position on what we consider to be a city event based on our values and what we are trying to do for the people of the city. So you're looking for us to take a position on that and sort out the wheat from the chaff.
Correct. And if not the council, for the council to designate a group, a body, a coalition of folks to come back to you, whether it's staff or anybody else, so that we can incorporate those elements into the body of the policy.
I would prefer a member of council, our community services, and Sierra Madre Events Committee, Chamber, some of the larger groups that do these things, and they overlap so easily, so you would actually have probably 2 representatives, and they overlap all of them, just by looking at them. So having that community involvement, so we can get what they do, because some of these I really have no idea who they are, but which is strange. Like the Family Room Preschool Fair, I don't even know what that is.
Can I just ask, why aren't we not talking about the Community Services Commission? I mean, they
We
are
did, I
there.
said that.
Yeah, but I mean, why are, we don't need another committee.
No, because they're members that were placed on there by city council and by the
Right.
city. But we want involvement from,
Well, that's what you do. That's what they do when they have public hearings. They bring people in
I
to
think it's more like an
testify.
ad hoc committee, like transportation, though. I don't think it's just up to them. I think they should have.
Or they can have special meetings charged with, I'm agreeing with you, Mayor Pro Tem, have a special, a meeting or special meetings charged with what, deciding this, and part of that is inviting the groups to give comment and maybe even
That's what
a
I mean,
discussion.
we could create a committee, but we have the Community
Yeah.
Services
Yeah.
Commission. I'm the liaison to it. And, sometimes they're real busy, but a lot of times what they're doing is doing fee waivers, which is what they did in the last meeting. And I feel like they'd love to take on the challenge. I feel like you have some really good people on that committee. I think it'd be fantastic if they would take it on, honestly.
If only there was a member here.
If only there only was a member here.
And
to
probably
talk.
before they get busy with the park. Probably before they get busy with the design of the park.
No, I agree, and I mean, we tend to over-committee things, and so I like the idea of utilizing an existing resource, both from the perspective of not recreating the wheel and also not adding staff time, and finding somebody to staff a new committee where we have folks who staff that commission and, are obviously quite embedded in this issue, so.
So just make it special meetings.
Yeah, but I think to the mayor's point, there has to be a voice from the organizations that are speaking with the committee the commission that would then give us a recommendation.
And not just 3 minutes public comment.
No,
I mean,
it's-
actual
it's
real.
gotta be a
like a
different
workshop
format.
or like a
Yeah,
town hall.
workshop, that type of thing, yeah. Mm.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about changing the overall structure of the policy of city event, city-sponsored event, applicant-driven event. We're talking about specific criteria about what a city sponsorship looks like. We already know what a city-produced event is. Those are the things that are in the budget. They're
Right,
annual
right,
events,
right.
right?
But no, we
These-
just tonight even had that changed.
I'm
So
sorry?
I don't know that, I wouldn't agree that that's definitive already. Because there's events that you just tonight, because I asked for the MOU, that yes, these are actually city events. So some of them,
I think what the city manager says is the 3 categories, not
yes,
not what the
no,
events
those
are.
aren't defined either.
No, that's what he's saying, though. We're not moving away from
Okay.
having the idea of
Okay,
3
you still want those
categories.
three categories,
That the
not who's in
the
them.
structure of the
Got
policy
it,
is there,
got
but
it.
not who's in.
Not
That'll
who's
be
in
up
them.
to the group to decide
it.
based off of applicable criteria.
Got it.
'Cause
Right.
What we don't want them doing is sort of unraveling all of this work and coming up with something completely different.
No.
The framework is there. It's just a matter of what goes in the right bucket.
Well, and I think there's also, I mean, I don't want to expand this too much because I know that can just unravel and create a whole bunch of timing issues. But I do think that there needs to be a discussion about what each category means, right? Because I did get the sense that there's even some reticence, even with applicant-driven or whatever it's called, fully cost burdening them does not seem to be, in favor of, based on our discussion. And so I do think there is some room for discussion about what each category means, beyond just, who fits into what category. But maybe that's still within your structure point.
Sure. Open to suggestions.
I think in the fee waivers for TUPs, they're defined as nonprofit versus profit. So are they making a profit for that or are they not? Like if it's the dance group or something versus Sierra Madre Historical Society, which is a nonprofit, I think that's important to define in the different categories. Oh, and then within the values that we're assessing to be paid, like for instance, the community service prep, I think it should be defined more about the requirements of each one. I don't think Candlelight Walk requires that much, but, obviously 4th of July Parade is huge, and Wisteria Festival is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to this before. I mean, I have a little bit of concern about the fact that we have a community services department and we budget for them, and part of the mission of that department is to assist with community events. And so there's a little bit of to me, a little bit of discordance with reimbursing fully for the community service efforts when that is partly, their job. So, whereas bringing in overtime police to do the barricades is pretty easily demarcated. So I guess that's a question too that I have is like, where do we draw the line with, I can see community services folks being, at the trail race on a Saturday, which is not a work day, that to me is a little different than, taking a call on a Monday talking about the insurance permit for, X event. So, I don't know how to draw that line and if we want to draw that line, but I do personally feel that there is a differentiation
And this
in
one,
those costs.
in this MOU, it's fully burdened overtime rate of Sierra Madre employees necessitated by the fourth celebration.
So were we in agreement on the Community Services Commission being the focal point?
Yes.
I believe so. yeah.
Okay.
With community.
Do you need more direction?
Do you want a
Need
motion?
Motion.
Yeah. I will move that we task the Community Service Commission with holding public meetings of the appropriate sort to gather input from our community organizations and our community at large to advise as to the categorization of various organizations and events, as well as how each of those categories is treated with respect to staff, city support, monetary and otherwise.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
Did you get that motion, Madam City Clerk?
I did verbatim.
It was a great motion.
Shorthand, right?
And thank you, everybody, for coming for this. It's important to hear your voices, and thank you for staying. It's always exciting to see a full room. Don't leave yet. We're almost done. Just stay a little while. I want to hear about the parking study. E-bikes. Wait, don't go. Okay. Ordinance number 1491, amending chapters 10.04, 10.08 for traffic regulations, 10.12 for administration enforcement. We're looking at vehicles and traffic, amending section 12.24 for traffic regulations, public parks, recreation centers, streets, sidewalks, and public places for electric mobility devices.
I don't see the chief. Is it? I don't see the chief either, but I
haven't
can
seen
take
him
this one.
tonight.
You can take this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, council, we had a first reading at the last meeting, and you had a number of edits. So we went back and we reviewed those edits with the police chief, with Councilmember Parkhurst as well. And before you is an amended version of the ordinance, and you'll see everything in yellow highlight is new. So that whatever is in yellow highlight's been changed. I can go through each of those edits if you'd like. Not sure how you'd like. Why don't I go through them real quick? There was an issue about what constitutes a central traffic district. We struck that language because while it exists in the code, it's not clearly defined. So we used the definition that you find in Measure V to define the relevant area, the downtown area, basically. We added a definition on bikeway because bikeway is a broader term that we find in the vehicle code. We added a definition on roadway, which is also a broader definition we find in the vehicle code. Central core area is a new term we're using instead of the central traffic district, and that's again taken from Measure V. Looking at section 10.08.240, use of electric mobility devices. Not only did we add the language of central core area, but we clarified 1 and 2. 1 says, on any area designated as a driveway or as necessary to enter or leave adjacent property, and when reasonably necessary to leave the roadway or bikeway, those are 2 new terms, to avoid hazardous conditions, debris, or other obstacles, right? So if someone is going to be operating within the roadway or bikeway but has to get out in order to avoid hazardous conditions, debris, or obstacles, they can do so, and that includes getting on the sidewalk. We clarified some of the speed limits relevant for roadways and bikeways, as well as sidewalks. So you can't go more than 10 miles per hour on a sidewalk. Clarified the definition of a motorized scooter. That was added. At the back here, modifications. This was the most recent edit. At the request of the police chief, he wanted a limitation in there about individuals, prohibiting individuals from modifying or tampering with electric mobility devices, usually to speed them up or to give them a specific sound. Yes.
Can I get some clarity on 10.08.240E? So it says motorized scooters, use of motorized scooters must comply with a 15-mile-an-hour maximum speed as required by the vehicle code. But then it goes on to say a person may operate a motorized scooter in a roadway where the posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour. Does that mean that they still have to go 15 in a 35?
No, we were trying to avoid that situation,
Okay.
right? Because we thought in discussions with the chief, we wanted to make sure that the motorized scooters are traveling at a speed that's consistent with whatever traffic is, because if they were going slower than traffic, that might create a traffic hazard. So
is that 15 miles per hour in a bikeway, or is that, what is the 15 miles an hour for?
I will confirm that. I'll look up the statute
Okay.
after I'm done presenting this.
And as long as we're in that section, on 10.08.240A1, on any area designed as a driveway, did you mean driveway or do you mean bikeway?
Driveway.
Okay, so I thought that, yeah, but I thought when you were describing it, I heard you, oh, the bikeway is in 2.
And 2,
I
yeah,
missed
roadway
it.
and bikeway
Yeah.
were added.
Got it now. Thank you.
Then there were some So if you look at 10-12-090, we added this language: police officers, those city employees designated by the city manager, and any party contracted by the city to specifically store or impound. We're using both terms here because upon further research in the vehicle code, some things can be impounded, some things can be stored, and they do have different meanings. Impounding is a specific process under the vehicle code. So we're using the terms store or impound to give staff the flexibility to either follow the impounding procedures or to store them temporarily and release them back to the recipient. So for example, if it's going to be an e-scooter, we would store that. But if it's going to be an illegally parked vehicle under whatever section of the vehicle code allows us to impound vehicles, we're going to impound it. And that's it for the amendments. So again, everything that's changed, it's only the yellow highlights. We felt that the edits were substantive enough, and because we brought in new conditions of the code, that this is going to be another first reading. So this won't be the second reading. We'll have a second reading at the next meeting. And to your question, Councilmember Garcia, let me look up this code section to get some clarity on the 50 miles per hour.
Any questions from council? Any public comment on this item?
We did receive a speaker card from Andrea Bennett, but she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to stay till the end.
Okay.
I don't see her in the audience.
Discussion.
I like the changes. I
Me
think
too.
it makes a lot of sense. I think it addressed the concerns we raised. Yeah, I'm ready to, with the clarification from city attorney, I think we're ready to prove this as a first reading.
I have a question, though. I just thought of this. So we've adopted the policies. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Education. Do we have a mode of doing the education about this?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the chief in his
Yeah.
presentation last week talked about how he was then going to go to the schools, and they've been, I think, doing some outreach to the schools already. So I do think there is a plan for that.
That's part of the previous staff report.
Could the transportation committee help with that?
Actually, they have reached out to Mr. Lloyd, and he has provided input on that, so I'm thrilled to see that. So
Excellent.
yes, there's, I think they're pulling in the expertise to make sure that nuances are addressed. So I'm excited.
And when we go to SCAG in a month, we'll check out as much as we can, because I'm sure they'll be very interested. All right. Do I have a motion? Oh,
I have some clarity.
okay.
So as it relates to bikeways, the speed limit is 15 miles per hour. But if you're going to get into the road, meaning you're going to be driving alongside and sharing the road with the cars, then you have to be at the speed limit up to, and you can go up to 35 miles per hour, although technically your vehicle can probably only go up to 28 miles
Do we have
per hour.
35 miles except for Orange Grove? Just Orange Grove, right?
I'm not sure,
it's only-
but the vehicle, if the vehicle can exceed 28 miles per hour, it's already in a different class. So it's
Yes.
not going to be an electric motorized vehicle.
Which actually, it's a good point, because I think that, I don't know that anyone would want to be going on Orange Grove when they could go on Grandview or Sierra Madre or Highland or any of the others, and those are all 30.
25.
And if you're, it depends on which one. Grandview's 30 most of the way. So, if you're going 25 or if you're going 28 and a 30, all right, I'm good with that.
So the 15 is for bikeway, and then the 35 is for roadway.
We're allowing, there's an allowance for higher speeds to keep up with traffic so that there's a limited traffic danger.
Understood.
That's just for the e-bikes, not for the bicycles.
That's a
though.
scooter.
That's for motorized scooters,
But not those bicycles.
not the e-bikes.
That's specific to scooters, yeah.
Yes, okay. Do I have a motion?
Who can get to it first?
Move to approve ordinance number 1491.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I like how you simplified that.
Yes,
You read it by title only already.
yes. All right, Resolution 26-29, rescinding Resolution 26-16, and provide direction on funding the downtown parking study.
So at the last city council meeting, the city council adopted a resolution authorizing a supplemental appropriation from the downtown assessment district for the downtown parking study. Subsequent to the meeting, it was determined with the district engineer that parking, anything related to parking, is not an applicable use of downtown funds. So this action tonight, this recommendation to adopt resolution 2629 rescinds the supplemental appropriation from the downtown assessment district. And we're seeking council direction on if you would like to move forward with the downtown parking study, we would need authorization and a supplemental appropriation from the general fund to move forward.
And Alex, did you confirm that this is the case, that all of the times that one of the reasons that was written and we put the 4 different districts together, that it somehow eliminated that ability to use it?
At some point in the past, we converted from a different form of district to a landscape and lighting district under the 1973 Act. When we converted to that new district comes with its own limitations on how funds can be spent. As the name implies, it's landscaping and lighting primarily, but you can also spend things that are landscaping and lighting adjacent. So for example, curbs. You can spend money on curbs. But we determined after the city manager and I looked into it, as well as I believe NBS, our consultant for the landscape and lighting district, after looking at the statute, we all concluded that this probably isn't one of the allowable expenses.
But the conversion that conversion didn't happen when we consolidated the downtown districts. The conversion happened before?
Mm-mm.
I don't recall.
Or was one from the 73 Act, and then when we merged them, that became the governing?
And I didn't know
I
that
don't remember we
became
had
the
it. We
governing body.
didn't have any discussion. I know when we talked about merging the two downtown districts, we did not have discussion that the consolidation would change the
The
use,
district type.
the ability to use.
100%.
Yeah.
That was not the case when we had discussion. It was that they're combined and it's all encompassing now, not that everything else was eliminated and it was only this now.
Yeah. I don't recall the conversation at the time, but even the other act had its own limitations on what those monies could be spent for. In fact, I think the Landscape and Lighting District Act of 73 is broader than the prior act. The advantage of the prior act and the issue with it was that it was based on ad valorem. So it was based on property tax revenue. So it was bringing in too much money, and we couldn't spend it there weren't enough projects that we can identify to spend the money on. And so it was accumulating a big pot. And so we wanted to shift it over to this act because it gave us more flexibility.
But the
is what I
reason for that
remember.
was because it was only designated up towards a different area. It wasn't designated the downtown region.
No, it covered the
That's
downtown.
a completely different
Okay.
district.
It covered the
Thank
downtown.
you, thank you. I'm like, wait a minute. What
That's
was
the
the
third
one up
district
there?
on Santa Anita.
On Santa Anita,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So the parking lot and lining and such wouldn't be adjacent, but we've used it for this traditionally since.
Never did a parking study.
No,
The
not a
the
parking
park-
study,
Oh.
parking resurfacing and lines.
The
Oh, yeah.
restriping.
We've done it for years this way with that study, and included in that study, if you go back to the original video of us discussing the budget items for the next year in capital projects, that included studying whether the lines would be different, which didn't happen this time, obviously, so.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think that was probably okay. I didn't have an issue with it. I remember we discussed it at the time. I didn't really have an issue with it, but I know NBS disagrees, and so I'll defer to NBS on that. But this one is a little more black and white as to its impermissibility.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
What about like Measure A, Measure M, like so some of the gas tax or any of those other funds that are outside the general fund? Are we able to use some of those restricted funds for this?
I don't think so, because those are generally related to street.
You have to come up and speak if you'd like. Thank you, Director.
Are we in public comment?
I think we're in questions.
Questions, yeah.
If I can, we can use some SB1 funds for the paving. We just have to identify it when we put on submit our streets that we're gonna do. We can do we can do the parking lots for that. I was able to confirm that.
Well, what about
Parking study.
a study on?
No,
parking?
that's just for maintenance of roadways and stuff, so it's
It's
just a
it's
parking lot.
capital funding.
So our district is not a downtown improvement district, is what you're saying. It's a
Lighting and
and
landscaping.
Landscaping district.
The downtown improvement district is broader, but it's a whole different structure.
But then how are we allocating in the downtown district's budget for events? How does that relate to lighting and?
If you look at, I mean, we can go through the statute, but it's pretty broad.
You're
There's,
saying the statute
the
allows for
statute
events.
permits it, yeah.
And what we're spending that money on is for the Winterfest, and it's for the holiday lighting and decorations in the downtown. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so I guess back to the parking study, right?
Yeah, it's okay. Okay.
Has the consultant already started any work on this?
No.
Is the scope fully defined?
Yes. What do you mean?
I know.
Oh, I don't want to head into discussion. I mean, I'll talk about it in discussion,
Okay.
since we're in questions now.
All right.
But that was a question. What do you mean?
Am I allowed to answer your question back?
I don't know.
What do you mean by is the scope fully defined? Yes, it is, and no, yes, it is. Are you asking what is that definition?
Well, I'm looking at the city attorney. He knows I'm looking at him. Can I answer the?
Yeah,
I don't know
think-
protocol here.
Yeah. You asked a question. I think he's asking for clarification. I
Okay.
think it makes sense to answer.
Well, so where my mind is yeah, I was in Monrovia just recently, and in the downtown area, right near their park, they have on the pavement there is a parking corral, is what they call it, green striped area where you can park bikes. So, and because two businesses came up to me and said, we would love to see more parking downtown. If we're doing a parking study, I mean, we're not talking about the sidewalks, we're talking about the streets. I really want to make sure, like, can any of the parking spaces be evaluated to turn into bike corrals that we could, instead of having one car with maybe 3 people in it, you'll get a parking area where you can get 4, 5, or 6 bikes. And that to me is what I mean on scope. If that is allowed into it, I'm excited. If that's not allowed into it, I'm concerned.
I would have to ask the question, obviously, but I don't anticipate that being an issue.
Great.
Any more questions? All right, public comment? All right, let's go into discussion.
Honestly, I was fine with this when it was paid for by the district money. I'm not so excited about it coming out of the general fund. I mean, I appreciate Councilmember Parker's enthusiasm about including the bike parking, because I agree the bike parking in our town is terrible. Having a city-sponsored e-bike that I am constantly nervous someone's going to steal, because I just have to park it somewhere and hope it's still there when I come back out. But yeah, I'm not excited. I mean, especially after the discussion we just had about $78,000, supporting our organizations to talk about, how much is this? This is
$30,000.
$30,000. I mean,
No,
it's
it's
50, I was gonna say it was more than that. Yeah, $55,000 study. I was skeptical before, and then I was won over by the fact that it was coming out of designated funds, and I think I'm back to skeptical because I'm not excited about bringing it out of the general fund at this point.
Yeah, as you
I'm
recall.
with you on that, too.
yeah, I
I'm
had
as
to be
well.
convinced by the,
Yes.
because I was, even with it coming out of that fund, I was still had to be
Still,
convinced.
I don't think it's a priority of our city right now.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It to me, the big thing is
It can be folded into a
circulation element.
circulation.
If we get funding
We'll do
from
more
Caltrans,
research
I
again.
opened the door for you, yeah.
We'll do
Thank
more
you.
research for you.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it makes sense that, if we're going to look at it, we need to make sure that we could recoup
Well,
the cost.
We don't need a parking study to create a bike corral.
No.
Just agendize a meeting and create one.
We'll get
Oh,
ideas.
you
And it
have
also
to-
doesn't have to be in a
I think
parking
we should
space.
do
And
that.
with what funds?
It also doesn't have to be in a parking space. I mean, it can be else. There's other land
We
that's
will
not
set that
necessarily
up
in the
for
street.
No,
further,
agree.
further
agree.
agendized.
But a question though, I mean, this whole thing, if we go back and where this started, it was that the parking poles that came out, right? It was those parking
Things.
Yes, thank you. I mean, they were like bollards, right? So the parking things. But what's got me thinking, and as I visit other cities, there's a lot of cities that have things like Pass Point, right? And so this kind of ties the two things together: the special events and this parking study. Is how do we go about evaluating something like that? I don't know. It would be great to see if that is something that could help generate the revenue to help offset these events, and how we consider it, how we think about it. That could have multiple benefits, right? It could bring in income from people from outside of town. It could encourage people to bike because they don't want to pay for parking downtown. Like, there's multiple ways that this could be looked at, and I don't know that we've actually really talked about it, or talked about it in the way of something simple like this Pass Point app that has zones that you go in. I mean, anyone who's been down to Pasadena has seen it, and it's, you can set them for just about any amount of time. I was in one city just recently, and you could do it for 24 hours. $5 for 24 hours. And I was like, all right, there we go.
Yeah, I have like 6 of those apps on my phone. I was in Boulder this weekend, and they actually require permitted parking like that from one of those apps on the parking around their trail, which reminded me of Miramonte or,
Yeah.
because it was the same situation. Like residential streets were just packed with people that were parked for this hiking part, this park with hiking trails. And so, anyway.
We did agendize that before. We have had that looked at before. It just never really came to council with much fruition, except for the funky machines. That's when it started coming to council. So that was the response to that agendized item. I just don't think it was that effective.
Yeah,
And I don't think it's a priority right this minute compared to everything else we're looking at right now.
The question with the parking polls was about revenue generation.
Yes.
Right. And then the question that came back was, are we trying to generate revenue, or are we trying to solve a parking problem? Right. And then it was both.
Everything.
Well, if we don't study the sciences of parking in the downtown, right, we won't solve the parking problem. That's for sure. And we won't be aware of what revenue generating opportunities that could come from downtown parking that could tie into other activities, special events being one, economic conversations about economic development and economic development programs and policy being the other. I think the consultant said it best when he was here a couple weeks ago, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but for people who come to Sierra Madre outside of the community, their first and last experience is where they park in the downtown. And that says a lot about why they come here and will they come back and what do they do when they're here. And we have yet to answer, I think, fully address that question of, are we fully utilizing all of the parking assets that we have in this community? Could they be utilized better? Are there other ways for us to maximize the value of those assets that we're currently not aware of? And I don't think staff or I have any good answers absent studying the sciences of parking in Sierra Madre.
And with stepping back from everything, analyzing that, like you said, like holistically looking at traffic, looking at everything, added to that would be like our economic plans that we were talking about in other meetings. So I just, at this current time, I don't think this is a priority to be spending $50,000
Yeah,
on
so-
this right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's actually a bargain for the work that's going to be done.
Yes.
I'd hate to lose this bargain, but at the end of the day, if we're talking about cost benefit for the community at large and cost benefit for the downtown district, because we're thinking of downtown district monies versus general fund monies, our priorities are probably not to go forward with the parking study.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, because it could be great, and it's it was a bargain for the hours that was gonna be put in the study. Really, if you look at it on an hourly basis, wow. But it's hard to pass up. But for me, I have to pass it up because of our priorities. So on that, any more conversation?
We do have to actually pass
You have
resolution
to-
2629.
I move we pass resolution 2629, rescinding resolution number 2616, and direct staff to not go forward with they can continue to look for funding in the parking study, but we're not giving any direction on spending money.
Maybe I make a slight
please.
amendment. So I would move that we adopt Resolution 2629 and charge staff with looking for opportunities to
find other sources of funding for a parking study.
Outside the general fund.
Outside the general fund, yes, I think that's the intent you had.
So when you say outside the general fund,
If
do
you
you,
got a grant.
okay. But
Grant,
if I
restricted
found, if I
funds.
found money in this year's budget, if it was general fund money, would you still not want to move forward?
No, I don't. Because we're
What
talking,
what happens to this year's money that we don't use? Remind me?
It falls back into fund balance?
after looking at all these budgets and we're about to go to look at line by line, I still don't feel comfortable moving forward with, even if we had that surplus, because there's so many other things we could spend that money on that I don't think, and this is not my priority.
Unless spending money makes money. So I just don't have the idea that if we maximize the efficiency of our parking through a study, that we're going to really be raising that much more revenue, unless you want to disabuse me of that.
I mean, if you're charging for parking, right, you're raising revenue. If we're installing EV chargers where we currently don't have them because the study as part of the scope says, find locations where we could maximize more EV chargers, we could potentially be raising revenue through UUT and other things. If we're not charging for parking and if we're not doing EV, this is just a scientific exercise.
We should have asked
And is
Tesla
there-
to do this for us before we did the
They
contract.
don't care about parking.
I know, but we should have said, no, you actually need to do a parking study so we can make sure this is beneficial to us.
So to Councilmember Goss's point is, can we get an idea that, does this have a chance of paying for itself?
Yes, because
Or
we could
making
always
money.
say that it costs $10 to park downtown. I mean,
Well,
like,
yeah,
I mean, and the
but
problem, I mean, what I need to know.
realistically, I guess is what I'm trying to
I
say.
mean, I don't think so, because I don't think we know, if I had to just guess, most people who park in downtown live here. And I'm not that excited about telling our residents that now you have to pay $1 or $2 every time you go downtown.
Right.
I understand the point about people coming into town and having a better parking experience, but I wouldn't fund that on the backs of
No.
what I suspect is the vast majority of parkers are me and you and other residents. And so in that case, I wouldn't be in favor of charging, and then we would have paid $50,000 to find that out.
It would,
So-
it would incentivize us using bikes.
Part of the reason I was
Yes, it would.
in support. But
Well, there's a motion.
There's a motion on the table.
Well,
Yeah.
but I think Clerk Aguilar was, I confused things, is
It
that
was
we
not
had.
a motion.
I'm fine with that.
So at this point, there was no second to the motion?
There has not
and
been.
I'll second it.
You just, okay, yeah, because you made it, you just altered it in a second. Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
So we're,
We
so we
amended
are
it.
voting
Yeah,
on Councilmember Garcia's original.
Well, my original motion, he clarified what I was trying to say because I was mumbling through the second part of the motion.
Okay.
So thank you. The motion was we are approving resolution glasses
2629.
2629.
2629 and looking for alternative funding potentially for a parking study.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's move on to items for future agendas. No? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. We all did good work. Great job.